Chapter 481 Lesser Evil. Each piece of meat was cut to roughly the same size, ensuring a fair share among residents. After everyone received their portion, the crowd in the square had mostly dispersed. The once mighty flood dragon had been reduced to a skeletal frame. Its black bones were perfectly intact and highly valuable for collectors. Li Zhizhong placed the frame back on the cart and headed down another street. When he passed Su Zimo, he stopped. Seeing Su Zimo's empty hands, he took one of the remaining pieces of dragon meat from the cart, smiled broadly, and handed it to him. Su Zimo smiled in return and accepted the meat. Li Zhizhong then resumed pushing his cart and disappeared around a corner into the pouring rain. The drizzling rain turned into a downpour. Raindrops fell like strings of pearls from the eaves. The soft pitter-patter of rain filled the air. Su Zimo walked back into the inn, shook off the rain, and ordered a few small dishes and a pot of warm wine at a table by the window. He always enjoyed this kind of season. "Enjoy your meal, sir," the waiter said with a smile as he placed the wine and dishes in front of Su Zimo. "Hey, I wanted to ask you something." Su Zimo placed a spirit crystal on the table and smiled. "Ask anything, sir. You don't need to give me that much," the waiter said, eyes flickering between hope and unease at the crystal. "You keep it," Su Zimo said. "You know Li Zhizhong, right?" Su Zimo asked. "Dragon-slaying hero? Everyone in Seaside City knows him. He's more famous than the city lord," the waiter replied with a grin. "Tell me his story," Su Zimo nodded. "It's a long story," the waiter thought for a moment before responding. "If you're not in a hurry, I'll tell it slowly. Our seaside city is a border town, desolate and underdeveloped. No one wants to come here. Even the ocean-covering empire barely manages it. For us, daily life is tough enough, let alone cultivation," the waiter explained sadly. "We're near the endless sky sea, which is like a treasure trove. Sea creatures and resources are abundant. Locals rely on the sea to survive. But long ago, a group of flood dragons moved into those waters. We call them evil dragons. They took over the waters, and anyone who went to fish got eaten. People were terrified. Doesn't the empire do anything about it?" Su Zimo asked curiously. "Sir, there are two threats, the dragons at sea and the seaside wolves on land. They're both extremely cunning. They don't stay in one place. The empire sent forces multiple times but never wiped them out completely, so they gave up." "What does that have to do with Li Zhizhong?" Su Zimo asked. "Li Zhizhong has always had an enormous appetite. Even as a child he could eat as much as 3 adults. His parents struggled to feed him and ventured into the endless sky sea for food once. They were killed by a flood dragon. He was 20 then. One stormy night, he left to search for them and didn't return for nearly a month. We thought he was dead, but half a month later, he returned dragging a flood dragon's corpse. Since then, he earned the title of dragon-slaying hero. We villagers agreed. He would kill flood dragons to protect us, and we would feed him. He even shared the meat with us. It filled our stomachs and was rich in spiritual energy, great for cultivation. He became more famous than the city mayor. "Do you know him well?" Su Zimo asked. "Not really, he's a loner," the waiter replied. "Quiet and reserved. He lives in a small house in the north of town, has no friends, and rarely speaks unless spoken to." "I see," Su Zimo nodded. After finishing his meal, he returned to his room. He was intrigued by Li Zhizhong. He could tell he'd never cultivated, yet he killed a flood dragon, which, though only at the desolate Meridian realm, was no ordinary foe. Li Zhizhong's strength must be astonishing, almost at the Paragon Meridian level. His blood seemed to boil like boiling water, full of raw energy. After spending one night in Seaside City, Su Zimo left early the next morning. Using the old map, he headed toward the endless sky sea to search for the Supreme Yang solar illumination. The map was ancient. Back then, the primordial heartlands hadn't split into 5 continents, so many locations on it were unreliable. He walked near the coast. Last night's rain had stopped, but the sky remained overcast. After walking a while, he suddenly heard howls. He looked to see a hillside ahead with dozens of wolves, giant and pitch black. When they saw him, the pack charged in a frenzy, howling wildly. Annoying, Su Zimo frowned. These had to be the seaside wolves the waiter mentioned, the other threat. He casually slapped the air. A spirit force hand formed above him. There was a loud boom as it descended, annihilating the wolf pack instantly. It left a massive five-fingered mark on the barren grassland. The surviving wolves fled in terror, tails between their legs, howling as they ran. Without stopping further, Su Zimo continued south. Near the coast, he spotted a row of wooden structures, like inns or warehouses, by the shoreline. Most were abandoned and falling apart, roofs collapsed. Only the frontmost building was occupied. The rest were deserted. Chapter 482, Searching for Solar Illumination. Su Zimo walked to the room at the front. Inside, it was pitch black. He looked around and saw the room was very tidy and clean. It was just that the owner of the room didn't seem to be home. Su Zimo didn't think much of it and walked through a long corridor. In front of him were many docked ships. Some were large, some small. At the very front of the dock, on a ship's plank, sat an old man fishing. The old man sat leisurely on the plank, holding a fishing rod, his body motionless. Standing there, Su Zimo could finally see the distant sea clearly. The vast sea stretched endlessly, calm and peaceful. But behind this calm lay a terrifying danger. Humans always carried fear toward the unknown of the sea. Su Zimo looked at the mark on the Supreme Yang Solar Illumination map. The Supreme Yang Solar Illumination was hidden inside an iceberg. But the iceberg's location was hard for Su Zimo to pinpoint. It changed too much. He glanced at the old man fishing and decided to ask him. As Su Zimo walked up to the old man's previously closed eyes suddenly opened. He didn't look at Su Zimo, just continued staring at his fishing rod and said calmly, "You scared my fish away. Answer one question for me, and I'll pay you with 10 fish, Su Zimo said. You don't understand. I'm not after the fish, but the joy that comes after a long wait when I finally catch one. The old man replied, shaking his head. The evil dragons are causing chaos, and everyone in Seaside has returned to the city. Why are you the only one still living here? Su Zimo asked, puzzled. Aren't you afraid? I'm old and attached to home, so I don't want to leave easily, the old man said, shaking his head. Then, old man, have you seen any icebergs around here? Su Zimo asked. Other than the sea, it's all just sea. The old man replied with a smile and shake of the head. Sorry to bother you then, Su Zimo said, giving the old man one last look before stepping onto a small boat nearby. The old man looked mysterious. Su Zimo figured he was definitely not ordinary, but it had nothing to do with him. He planned to explore the area around the endless sky sea to see if he could find the iceberg that hid the Supreme Yang Solar Illumination. The small boat slowly drifted into the depths of the sea. The blue water flowed gently. As far as the eye could see, it was just seawater and the distant, unreachable horizon. The sea and the faraway skyline mirrored each other. The autumn waters shared the same color as the sky. Su Zimo piloted the small boat for several hours but found nothing. Growing impatient, he stepped into the air. With each step, he covered hundreds of miles. But after several rounds back and forth, Su Zimo found nothing. Not even an island, let alone an iceberg. The sky gradually darkened. The already overcast weather became even more frightening. The sea in the darkness grew restless. Small waves began to roll. Su Zimo took the small boat and slowly returned to the dock. The old man still stood by the shore, holding a large yellow sack and tossing something into the sea. When he saw Su Zimo return, he didn't say anything and quietly continued tossing. Su Zimo didn't bother him either. As night fell, he returned to Seaside City. He wasn't familiar with the endless sky sea, and the old man at the dock didn't seem willing to talk. He thought of asking around in Seaside City, but most people there didn't dare venture to the endless sky sea. He figured he could only turn to the dragon-slaying hero, Li Zhizhong. He was known to roam the endless sky sea often. If there was any information, he would know. Oh. After returning to the inn, Su Zimo ordered a pot of warm wine and resumed chatting with the same innkeeper as before. You mean that old man at the dock? The innkeeper said with a look of realization and a smile. I don't know his name either, but people in the city call him Uncle Shang. He's a strange old man who's lived at the dock for a very long time. Even when the evil dragons started causing trouble and everyone withdrew from the docks back into the city, he stayed. People tried to persuade him, but he wouldn't listen. Su Zimo nodded. After dinner, he left the inn and headed straight for the northern part of the city. After a bit of asking around, he arrived at Li Zhizhong's home. The courtyard wasn't very large, and the house was an old-style mud brick home. After walking through the black wooden gate, Su Zimo saw many remains scattered around the courtyard. Some were from evil dragons, others from seaside wolves. Li Zhizhong, wearing a white vest, was in the courtyard sharpening something. When Su Zimo came closer, he saw that Li Zhizhong was grinding up countless flood dragon teeth and claws. It seemed he was forging a weapon. When he saw Su Zimo, Li Zhizhong grinned. He wiped the sweat off his forehead and said, "Need something? I want to ask you about the endless sky sea," Su Zimo said. "All right." Li Zhizhong nodded. He seemed to be kind to everyone. "You've spent years in the endless sky sea. Have you ever seen anything like an iceberg?" Su Zimo asked. Li Zhizhong's eyes tightened slightly at the question, and he hesitated. "There's a lead," Su Zimo thought with relief. What he feared most was leaving without even a clue. That would make things truly difficult. Seeing Li Zhizhong still reluctant to answer, Su Zimo quickly added, "As long as you tell me, I'll agree to any condition you ask." Li Zhizhong's eyes showed a trace of hope, but it quickly faded. He shook his head and said, "Some things you can't just do because you want to." "You won't know if I can unless you tell me," Su Zimo replied. "I want to kill every evil dragon and seaside wolf near Seaside City." "Do you have that kind of power?" Li Zhizhong asked, shaking his head. Su Zimo chuckled and asked, "Is that it?" "I'm not joking," Li Zhizhong said seriously. "Neither am I," Su Zimo replied, his aura surging. Endless spirit force began to gather around him. He slowly raised his right hand. With a finger carrying boundless divine power, he pressed down toward Li Zhizhong. Li Zhizhong's expression changed drastically. That single finger felt like it carried 10,000 tons. Far stronger than any dragon he had encountered. The muscles in his right arm bulged, and without any technique, he directly clashed with Su Zimo. But the moment they touched, Li Zhizhong's figure was as fragile as a sheet of paper. He was sent flying instantly. "I didn't even use 1% of my strength," Su Zimo said, shaking his head. "Take me to the iceberg. I'll wipe out those beasts for you." "A promise is a promise." Li Zhizhong stood up, rubbing his sore arm, and looked at Su Zimo. Chapter 483, The Iceberg Gate. The pale light of dawn glowed beautifully on the horizon. As the sky just began to brighten, the two of them left Seaside City and headed toward the endless sky sea. They walked and talked along the way. Li Zhizhong was actually a very reserved person. Unless Su Zimo asked a question, he could stay silent the whole time. When they arrived at the dock by the sea, Su Zimo saw the same old man as before, holding the yellow sack and tossing something into the sea. "Be careful of him." Li Zhizhong glanced at the old man and warned Su Zimo briefly. Su Zimo frowned slightly. He had suspected before that the old man was suspicious. This time, he was retrieving the Supreme Yang solar illumination. No mistakes could be allowed. He was thinking about whether he should just kill the old man ahead of time to remove any future threat. "Let's go," said Li Zhizhong beside him, stepping onto a small boat without saying more. Su Zimo thought for a moment, then got on the boat. As the small boat slowly drifted away, the old man's cloudy eyes seemed endlessly deep. No one knew what he was thinking. The sea remained calm. The deep blue ocean wasn't very clear. In fact, it seemed somewhat murky. "Strange, we haven't been attacked by any flood dragons," Li Zhizhong said, shaking his head. Su Zimo paused for a second. Everyone said the sea was full of flood dragons. yet he hadn't seen a single one even when he came yesterday. The two arrived at a certain stretch of water. Li Zhizhong looked around, then slowly stopped the boat. He nodded at Su Zimo and jumped into the sea. Su Zimo was slightly surprised and guessed that maybe the iceberg was underwater. He had always imagined the iceberg floating on the surface, never thinking it could be submerged. Following Li Zhizhong into the water, they didn't notice anything unusual at first. Li Zhizhong stayed at the seabed for a long time before taking out a small insect from his spatial ring. This is a firebug. It's highly sensitive to fire-related objects, Li Zhizhong explained. Su Zimo found all of this quite interesting. As soon as the firebug touched the seawater, it began to struggle and swam rapidly toward the north. The iceberg's location is never fixed, but it always stays within this part of the sea, Li Zhizhong said. After swimming for about half an hour, the firebug seemed exhausted, and its speed clearly slowed. At that point, Li Zhizhong put it away and took out a new one. In this way, they followed the bugs for nearly 2 hours, until the outline of a triangular iceberg appeared ahead. The closer they got to the iceberg, the more Su Zimo felt the supreme netherglow inside him start to tremble. And the tremors and pulses were becoming stronger and more frequent. This is it, he thought to himself. Is this what you were looking for? Li Zhizhong turned and asked. Su Zimo nodded slightly. They stepped onto the iceberg. It wasn't particularly large, and its surface was pure white. But when Su Zimo touched it, he felt a slight warmth. At the front of the iceberg stood a large fiery red door. The door was tightly shut, and in the center was a slot shaped like a circular sun, carved with runes Su Zimo had never seen before. As he approached the door, he felt a power boiling inside him. His demon physique seemed to stir, as if it were awakening. How did you find this place? Su Zimo asked Li Zhizhong curiously. Li Zhizhong smiled faintly, then gazed silently at the endless sea. Dozens of winters ago, a baby was abandoned by the shore of the endless sky sea. A couple who had gone fishing at sea found him and, feeling pity, took him in and raised him. They named him Li Zhizhong. As the boy grew older, he needed more food. That same year, flood dragons began to occupy the endless sky sea, and food was in very short supply in Seaside City. Unwilling to see the child go hungry, the couple tried many ways to find food. In the end, they decided to go fishing in the sea. They never returned. At the age of 20, the orphan went out in the rain to search for them. The sea was stormy and wild, and the sky looked like it could collapse at any moment. His small boat was overturned, and he was thrown into the sea. When he woke up, he found himself lying on a warm iceberg. Inside him, his blood felt like it was burning, and he gained immense strength. He drifted in the endless sky sea for days, but never found the couple again. When he returned to the city, he encountered a flood dragon. What seemed like certain death turned unexpectedly when he, in panic, smashed the flood dragon's head with a punch. He brought the flood dragon's corpse back to Seaside City and became instantly famous, known as the dragon-slaying hero. After telling his story, Li Zhizhong smiled and said, "Since then, I've come back here often, because the closer I get to this door, the more my blood seems to boil. But no matter what I try, I've never been able to open it." Su Zimo nodded slightly. He placed his hand on the door, but couldn't tell what material it was made from. Just then, the map in his spatial ring, the one that had led him here, began to emit a brilliant light. The light floated into the air, shining brightly like a blazing sun. Its radiance shot up to the sky. Then it transformed into a beam of light and surged into the circular slot. With a loud rumble, the heavy door slowly began to open. Inside the door was a void. No one could see what was within. But the moment the door opened, the entire iceberg seemed to tremble. At that moment, the roar of dragons echoed around them. Su Zimo turned and saw that the whole iceberg was surrounded by a massive group of flood dragons. There were at least hundreds of them, each exuding terrifying power. Among them were even some at the Imperial Meridian and Empyrean Meridian realms. And riding atop a black-purple flood dragon was none other than the old man from the dock. How many years? I've waited so many years. This withered old body has finally opened the door. The old man shouted wildly from atop the flood dragon. Seeing this, Li Zhizhong roared in fury. So you were the one raising all these flood dragons? Su Zimo suddenly recalled seeing the old man feeding something into the sea. So it was food for the flood dragons. No need to be so angry. The old man laughed loudly. Even your arrival was part of my plan. What do you mean? Li Zhizhong asked angrily. Chapter 484 Scene Within the Void. The old man laughed and said, Do you know your true identity? What identity? Li Zhizhong asked in confusion. You should be able to feel it. You're not human, the old man replied. In fact, you come from the flame race. How do you know that? Li Zhizhong frowned slightly. Of course I know. I was the one who took you out of the flame race all those years ago, the old man said. That night when your boat capsized in the endless sky sea. I was the one who placed you on the iceberg and awakened a portion of your bloodline. You're also from the flame race? Li Zhizhong reacted immediately. What's our relationship? Just clansmen, nothing more. The old man shook his head. Many summers ago, I happened to pass by here and discovered this iceberg. There was a powerful energy fluctuation inside. I could feel the intense heat it held, something rarely seen in the world. My instincts told me that if I could obtain what was inside, I could ascend to immortality. Unfortunately, no matter what I did, I couldn't break through the iceberg. One day, the iceberg suddenly radiated with dazzling light, and a few large words appeared on it. Waiting for the destined one. What does that have to do with me? Li Zhizhong asked, frowning. Let me finish, the old man replied calmly. I was extremely unwilling to let go of this once-in-a-lifetime chance while I was right next to it. So I began making my arrangements. Su Zimo chuckled, having already guessed most of the story. He said calmly, So you used the flood dragons to guard the sea area, just to keep others from discovering the iceberg. Then you brought Li Zhizhong out from the flame race and arranged for him to grow up in Seaside City, so his background wouldn't raise suspicion. You built up his reputation as a dragon-slaying hero and told him about the iceberg. That way, when the so-called destined one arrived and sought the iceberg, the first person they'd look for would be Li Zhizhong. Then you could sit back and reap the reward. Is that right? Hearing Su Zimo's words, a strange light flashed in the old man's eyes. He then laughed and said, You're absolutely right. Now that the door is open, it's time for me to enjoy the reward. So tell me, how do you want to die? Maybe you haven't figured out who's the mantis and who's the oriole. Su Zimo shook his head. In the face of absolute power, what use are these petty schemes? He looked at the flood dragons surrounding them and slowly waved his right hand. A spatial gate appeared. From within the gate, violent dragon roars could faintly be heard. Hearing those roars, the old man suddenly felt a bad premonition. Then the spatial gate fully opened, and deafening dragon cries rang out. One by one, 100 majestic and mighty dragon gods flew out from it. Their overwhelming draconic power surged like tidal waves, suppressing the entire sea region. As 100 giant dragons soared out, the old man's expression changed drastically. This is impossible. The dragon race was wiped out long ago. How can there still be so many? Impossible, the old man murmured. The ones most affected were the surrounding flood dragons. They carried a trace of dragon blood, so when so many true dragons appeared, they didn't even dare to resist. They all collapsed into the sea, trembling in fear. This was pure bloodline suppression. The dragon's power and roars echoed in all directions, their massive bodies stirring up towering waves. Explosions rumbled from the seabed. Seeing this, the old man panicked. He wanted to command the flood dragons to block them while he escaped. But the flood dragons didn't move at all. The 100 true dragons instantly surrounded the old man. Before he could resist, the dragons raised their enormous bodies, thick dragon breath flooding out. With a loud boom, accompanied by the old man's scream, his entire body exploded, blood and flesh flying in all directions. After the 100 dragons finished, they encircled the iceberg. Su Zimo looked at Li Zhizhong and said, "I've fulfilled my promise to you. Wait here. Once I return, you can go back to Seaside City." Li Zhizhong nodded. The 100 dragons remained outside to prevent anyone from interfering. After giving instructions, Su Zimo stepped into the red door before him and entered a void. As his vision cleared, he found himself standing on a plain. All around him, the plain was engulfed in flames. Thick smoke drifted in the air above. The temperature was extremely high, and the farther he walked, the hotter it became. If, when he obtained the Supreme Netherglow, he experienced extreme cold, then this Supreme Yang solar illumination was the extreme of heat. The Supreme Yang solar illumination was formed at the beginning of the world, from the first breath of pure Yang energy and solar essence. People called the Supreme Yin Netherglow the Primal Sage. The Supreme Yang solar illumination was the Holy God. Yin and Yang together formed the Grand Tao. The combination of the Supreme Yin Netherglow and the Supreme Yang solar illumination gave birth to all Taoists and truths. According to ancient legends on the primordial heartlands, all life was derived from the Supreme Yang solar illumination and Supreme Yin Netherglow. They were the ultimate form of life. Su Zimo hadn't walked far when he saw the flames on the plain burning even more fiercely. The fire was mixed with purple and red, clearly not ordinary fire. He could feel the temperature increasing rapidly. Within a few steps, his clothes had already caught fire. He feared that if he continued, his entire body would spontaneously combust. At that moment, Su Zimo opened his true fate world. Under the suppression of the primordial chaos bead, he slowly took out the Supreme Yin Netherglow. The Supreme Yin Netherglow looked like a small beast statue, but the beast gave off a strange feeling. Its appearance was plain, yet no matter how hard you tried to observe it, you couldn't clearly remember what it looked like. It was as if you'd forget the moment you looked away. This small beast was the source of countless life forms, releasing gray-white cold air. The moment it appeared, the entire space trembled. From deep within the distant horizon came a terrifying roar. The small beast before Su Zimo also let out a roar in response. The surrounding space shook non-stop, and the spiritual energy formed waves of fluctuation. Su Zimo slowly grasped the Supreme Yin Netherglow. A chilling force spread through his entire body, gradually dispersing the surrounding heat. Chapter 485, Acquiring Solar Illumination. As the coldness spread throughout Su Zimo's body, the warmth on his skin began to fade. Su Zimo felt as if he were in the breeze of an April spring. His body felt inexplicably comfortable. He looked in the direction of the earlier roar and started walking step by step. Along the way, flames blazed, the ground was scorching hot, and the sky was filled with thick smoke. Not long after, Su Zimo saw creatures starting to appear from the surrounding flames. These creatures seemed to be formed of fire, yet no matter how he looked, he couldn't tell if they were real or not. It was as if they were living beings of flesh and blood. At first, the creatures were weak rabbits, elephants, lions, tigers, but the farther Su Zimo walked, the stronger the monsters became. Su Zimo even saw the 10 great divine beasts, as well as ancient mutated species and mythological monsters. Soul Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, Dark Phoenix, Undying Bird, countless creatures long extinct and forgotten through time all appeared here. Holding Shadow Tyrant, with chaos by his side, Su Zimo advanced forward through them. Blade energy surged from Shadow Tyrant like a purgatory storm. These beasts left no corpses when killed. They simply turned into flames and disappeared. As he fought his way through, Su Zimo was covered in wounds, his whole body drenched in blood like a man made of flesh and blood alone. Finally, a palace appeared ahead of him, a fiery red palace, almost entirely surrounded and burning in flames. In front of the palace, it was eerily quiet, not a single beast in sight. When Su Zimo reached the palace gate, a loud boom echoed. The flames around the palace surged violently, as if provoked. They gathered together and incinerated the surrounding space. The fire loomed down from the sky, turning the entire heavens into a fiery red. The burning heat crashed toward Su Zimo. Su Zimo held Shadow Tyrant and used the 13th form of Dao-seeking Imperial Wrath. The furious blade aura soared to the sky and collided with the flames. With another loud boom, Shadow Tyrant trembled slightly, and the flames were extinguished. But Su Zimo's body was also blown backward. He steadied himself, frowning, staring straight ahead. A pressure as ancient as time itself emanated from within the palace. "Aunt, hand over what you're holding, and I might spare your life." "Are you afraid of it?" Su Zimo looked at the small Supreme Een Netherglow beast in his hand and smiled. "This isn't something you should be touching," said the voice from the palace. "Should I call you Supreme Yang Solar Illumination or Holy God?" Su Zimo asked with a grin. "A name is just a title. Creature, what do you want?" Supreme Yang Solar Illumination asked. "You should understand, since I've come this far, there's no way I'm turning back," Su Zimo said, shaking his head. "Ridiculous. Do you think you can subdue me with your strength?" Supreme Yang Solar Illumination snorted. "Even if a Grand Emperor descended today, I wouldn't care. A Grand Emperor wouldn't work. But some things will," Su Zimo said, smiling. "Nonsense." The voice in the palace let out a heavy snort. Suddenly, an overwhelming pressure descended. This pressure carried an unstoppable force. As it came down, Su Zimo felt his blood freeze. His entire strength was sealed, as if his meridians were locked. He stood frozen in place, unable to move. It felt like this pressure was going to crush him into dust, constantly squeezing his body. His bones made creaking sounds. As the pressure fell, the sky above turned blood red. Su Zimo noticed that within this red sky, two suns had appeared. They weren't illusions or projections. They were real, tangible suns. The moment the two suns appeared, the Supreme Een Netherglow in Su Zimo's hand flew out. It turned into a gray-white beam of light and shot toward one of the suns. Supreme Yang Solar Illumination roared, furious. "Primal Sage, are you insane? What did that kid give you to make you do this?" The Supreme Een Netherglow didn't respond. It moved so fast it was like a flash of light, slamming into the sun formed by Supreme Yang Solar Illumination. Only then did Su Zimo feel his body loosen. The pressure disappeared. "These ancient monsters really aren't easy to deal with," he muttered. He watched as the Supreme Een Netherglow and Supreme Yang Solar Illumination fought. The sky split in two, one half fiery red, the other gray-white. Neither side had the upper hand for now, both constantly transforming and manifesting various forms. That's why Supreme Yang Solar Illumination hadn't made the first move earlier. Otherwise, it wouldn't have wasted words with Su Zimo and would have killed him outright. Seeing this, the spirit force behind Su Zimo surged. A blue planet slowly rose behind him. In his true fate world, Su Zimo slowly summoned the primordial chaos bead. This primordial chaos bead was usually hidden in the void. No one but Su Zimo could find it. When it appeared, it released a silent pressure. Its surface was illusory, but inside it radiated divine light, auspicious clouds, and the cries of thousands of god beasts. It contained the evolution of countless worlds. The moment the primordial chaos bead appeared, the Supreme Een Netherglow and Supreme Yang Solar Illumination sensed something. Both glanced toward Su Zimo. Supreme Een Netherglow showed no reaction, but Supreme Yang Solar Illumination's expression changed dramatically. "Primal Sage, you tricked me," Supreme Yang Solar Illumination shouted in shock. "How can that thing appear? How is it possible?" "Impossible. This makes no sense." As it screamed, Supreme Yang Solar Illumination ignored everything else and fled toward the edge of space. It tried to escape through layer after layer of the void. But the primordial chaos bead was faster. Supreme Een Netherglow blocked Supreme Yang Solar Illumination's path. Then the primordial chaos bead began to tremble, releasing a ray of light that shone on Supreme Yang Solar Illumination. The moment the light appeared, Supreme Yang Solar Illumination's body froze midair. It was completely still, unable to move. "I knew it. I knew the moment I saw that thing. I couldn't escape." Supreme Yang Solar Illumination roared in anger. Only now did Su Zimo clearly see Supreme Yang Solar Illumination's true form. Just like Supreme E Netherglow, it was a small beast. But while Supreme E Netherglow was silver-white, this one was fiery red. Then, the primordial chaos bead released endless light. Amid Supreme Yang Solar Illumination's howls, both beasts were taken through layers of space and brought into Su Zimo's true fate world. As they entered together, a loud boom echoed, and Su Zimo stood frozen in place. Chapter 486, Advancing to God Meridian Realm. Su Zimo stood frozen in place, his eyes unfocused, his gaze dull and lifeless. He heard a loud boom echo within his true fate world. It was as if a divine chant traveled through endless void and entered his ears. All sorts of strange and bizarre sounds surrounded him, and the world he saw turned from color to black and white, then finally into complete nothingness. Chaos remained by his side, while Su Zimo's consciousness had entered his true fate world. The shape of his true fate world was beginning to take form. The foundation was now halfway stabilized. Above this world, Supreme Yang Solar Illumination intertwined with Supreme E Netherglow. Under the power of the primordial chaos bead, the two continued to merge and condense. The world was now unpredictable. Half the sky was black, the other half white. It looked as if the world had been split in two, with loud rumbles booming from every direction. No matter where one stood, this sound could be heard. Strong winds howled as if the sky was collapsing, and the ground seemed to be sinking. Everything looked like it was about to be swallowed up. Endless spirit force gathered in chaotic disarray. The creatures of the myriad beast realm all cowered in fear, not daring to even peek outside their lairs. This scene continued for a long time, about half a month. During that period, Su Zimo could do nothing. His consciousness and body were frozen in place, completely unable to move. On a certain day after half a month, the Supreme Yang Solar Illumination and Supreme E Netherglow, after being entangled for so long, finally merged. The moment they merged, it was as if two divine beasts appeared in the sky, grasping sun and moon in their claws, carrying stars on their backs. These two giant beasts roared toward the heavens, and then transformed into four streams of light. They became the legendary four supreme god beasts: Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, Black Tortoise. Yin and Yang give rise to two forms. Two forms give rise to four symbols. For symbols give rise to 8 trigrams, and from the 8 trigrams comes all creation. The two forms give birth to the nature of heaven and earth. The four symbols define its structure. The moment the four supreme god beasts appeared, they roared toward the heavens. Dragon roars, tiger growls, phoenix cries, turtle bellows. The shadows of the four beasts shifted endlessly. All known and unknown beast species were evolving within them. All races, known or unknown, from the primordial heartlands, those that still existed and those lost to time, were evolving within. They evolved all living things, including humans. This scene continued for a long time until finally, with a loud boom, the images of the four supreme god beasts exploded. They turned into countless streams of light, scattering across the god world. Each beam of light carried a powerful life force. The beams floated like eggs, incubating something within. When the light fell onto different parts of the god world, countless beast cries were heard all at once. The once quiet god world had entered its most lively and prosperous period. Countless animals came into existence, appearing from nothing. Tigers, lions, rabbits, mice, monkeys, all kinds of life began forming across oceans, land, and sky. The once silent world became noisy in an instant. These newly born creatures were afraid and curious, just arriving in this world. In one region of the god world, the first human appeared. Then the second, the third, more and more newborn humans arrived in the world like infants. All the creatures cautiously observed their new world, still adapting to everything. At that moment, Supreme Yang Solar Illumination and Supreme E Netherglow returned to their places. Su Zimo's true fate world was finally fully complete. The god world had now become a fully formed world, no different from the primordial heartlands. The biggest beneficiary of this complete world system was, of course, Su Zimo. The power within his body multiplied, dozens, hundreds of times stronger. The 8th meridian gate, Shadowbearer, began to stir. The spirit force inside him surged like a violent storm, like crashing ocean waves, flowing as if through a roaring river. This river of energy carried the power of creation and flowed through his body again and again. Su Zimo could feel his strength growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even the 8th meridian gate was beginning to tremble under this impact. Su Zimo had already reached the peak of the Empyrean Meridian realm. His next step was to break into the God Meridian realm. A God Meridian cultivator stood at the pinnacle of what the mortal world could dream of. Beyond the God Meridian realm lay the path to immortality and the path of Tao, a transformation into a supreme being with an unmatched lifespan. Of course, that step wasn't relevant to Su Zimo yet. His true fate world was now complete, but it was still operating slowly. He needed to seize heaven's will, using the heaven's will of the primordial heartlands to accelerate the growth of his world. The key step in breaking into the God Meridian realm was igniting Godfire. Godfire could also be understood as divinity. In the Empyrean Meridian realm, one condenses the God Soul. Godfire then grants the God Soul divinity. What is divinity? Simply put, it's spirit or divine consciousness. It gives a person thought, awareness, the ability to reason and distinguish. Though the God Soul ultimately remains under your control, it can act as an independent being with its own will. When the humanity of the body and the divinity of the soul reach perfect harmony, one can step onto the higher paths of Tao or immortality and leave the mortal world behind. The power of the God Meridian realm lies not just in strength, but also in its tenacity of life. To kill a God Meridian cultivator, you must erase their divinity and destroy their God Soul. Otherwise, even if their body is shattered and only a drop of blood remains, they can still resurrect. That is the terrifying power of the God Meridian realm. As for injuries, if they have enough spirit force, they can recover quickly. After Supreme Yang solar illumination and Supreme Yin netherglow fused, Su Zimo found himself able to move again. He slowly sat cross-legged. The spirit force and power of creation inside him were overflowing. He couldn't suppress it. Su Zimo quickly guided that spirit force to strike the 8th meridian gate, Shadowbearer. With a loud boom, a muffled sound came from within his body. Su Zimo trembled heavily. Breaking through a meridian gate and unlocking one's limits was a pain that reached deep into the soul. He gritted his teeth and used his energy to strike the 8th meridian gate again and again. Before long, he heard cracking sounds. Cracks began to appear on the surface of Shadowbearer Gate, and with every impact, the cracks deepened. Finally, with a loud explosion, the spirit force surged in like water from the heavens, roaring in without end. Chapter 487, 6 Paths of Samsara. The moment the spirit force broke through the 8th meridian gate, Shadowbearer, the other 7 meridian gates around Su Zimo's body also exploded with a loud bang bang bang. As the spirit force entered the meridians of the 8th meridian gate, it transformed into a river of fire upon exiting. This was what they called Godfire. All the spirit force flowing into the 8th meridian gate would ultimately form Godfire. And this Godfire would continuously pour into Su Zimo's God Soul. Located at the center of Su Zimo's abdomen, the small seated figure of his God Soul had already matured. From the outside, it looked nearly identical to Su Zimo himself. Because it had merged with the 9 Revolutions God Tower physique, it also had an extra 9 layers of defense. These defenses were meant to protect his God Soul from any external attacks. At this moment, the miniature God Soul looked majestic and solemn. As the Godfire surged in, the 9 Revolutions God Tower physique didn't block it under Su Zimo's control. The Godfire fully merged into the small figure of the God Soul. Watching the endless river of spirit force enter the 8th meridian gate and transform into Godfire to fuse with his God Soul, Su Zimo finally let out a sigh of relief. He had officially entered the God Meridian realm. A realm identical to what he had achieved in his previous life. But in terms of real power, Su Zimo felt that even if he faced an immortal path opponent, he wouldn't be afraid. The only thing that might still concern him were those ultimate beings among the immortals. With the divinity of the God Soul now activated, it looked far more lifelike. It no longer resembled a cold, unmoving statue. Now it seemed more like a living being. After entering the God Meridian realm, Su Zimo began adapting to his new power. He didn't rush to use the primordial chaos bead to elevate his strength directly to the peak of the God Meridian realm. Instead, he planned to fully master his current power before seeking further breakthroughs. The key point was that Su Zimo's true fate world was now fully complete, giving him the foundation to transcend everything. He was no longer bound by the fate of the primordial heartlands. Though it seemed his breakthrough to the God Meridian realm only took a few days, in truth, more than half a month had passed. Now, Su Zimo turned his attention to his true fate world. The God world was completely renewed. All the creatures were gradually adapting to the world. The myriad beast realm was currently the most powerful force on the continent, since the other creatures had not yet begun cultivation. They were still ordinary animals at this stage. To avoid disrupting the natural development of the world and forcing evolution too quickly, Chaos set up a barrier around the myriad beast realm's territory, preventing other creatures from entering. At this point, the creatures of the continent couldn't even be called beasts, they were just animals. Only after they began to cultivate could they evolve from wild beasts into spirit beasts. It was a slow evolutionary process. For example, a snake needed 500 years of cultivation to become a flood dragon. And a flood dragon had to cultivate for 1,000 years before transforming into a pseudo-dragon. The same rules applied to other creatures. This was an era of blood and survival. Beasts began preying on each other, and a basic food chain had already formed. Humans, for now, were at the bottom of that pyramid. They had just emerged in this era and were often prey for many beasts. They hadn't learned to create tools or set traps or use wisdom to hunt. It was a chaotic era filled with monsters. Su Zimo stood in front of the river of fate, looking at the eye of the heavenly Tao in the void. He softly murmured to himself. Though it was a whisper, his words carried the weight of supreme law. Like a heavy hammer, his words echoed across every corner of the planet, entering the hearts of all living beings. Now that the nether glow and solar illumination have returned to place, the God world is fully complete. The desolation of the primordial Genesis era is over. It is time to begin a new chapter. The curtain rises. The primordial Genesis era ends, and this new era shall be known as the Primal Beast era. His words were recorded in the river of fate and engraved within the eye of the Tao. From this moment on, the primordial Genesis era had officially ended. Just as the primordial heartlands transitioned from the legendary era to the desolate era, and now to the imperial era, the God world had moved from the primordial Genesis era into the primal beast era. The primal beast era had officially begun. Now, with countless races rising and chaos looming, no one could predict the future glory or downfall of this age. Once the God world began developing steadily, Su Zimo prepared to leave. However, at that moment, a powerful beam of light suddenly burst from the north of the continent. Su Zimo turned to look and saw the strange wisteria flower he had brought in earlier was reacting. This flower had always been a mystery to Su Zimo, so he simply let it grow on its own. Now the flower had clearly matured. The 6 petals had turned into 6 swirling vortexes. It no longer looked like a flower at all. These 6 vortexes rose into the air, carrying immense samsara energy and 6 distinct powers that spread across the sky. Su Zimo realized that this strange flower had absorbed the energy of the God world to grow. Now it was deeply connected to the world. The 6 vortexes floated in the sky for a long time, then released countless black light particles. In just a moment, these black lights covered the entire God world. All living beings, humans, animals, and plants alike, absorbed these black light particles. Then, the vortexes spun with a loud rumble and vanished into the void. As the master of this world, once the 6 vortexes merged with it, Su Zimo immediately understood their purpose and information. After closing his eyes for a while, Su Zimo opened them with a faintly surprised expression. He whispered, 6 paths of samsara. These 6 vortexes represented the 6 paths of samsara. Deva path, human path, beast path, Naraka path, Preta path, Asura path. All beings after death would enter reincarnation, and based on the karma of their lives, would be judged and assigned their next life. Once the 6 paths of samsara hid within the void, they formed an independent space for the cycle of rebirth. After the 6 paths departed, the strange wisteria flower stems and leaves reformed once more. They turned into a bridge with 6 paths leading from it, each one connecting to one of the 6 reincarnation paths. Those who entered reincarnation had to cross this bridge, walking step by step into their next life. Su Zimo watched this and waved his hand. In the vast ocean of the God world, the tree of forgetfulness was uprooted. Carrying the sea water of river of forgetfulness, it entered the reincarnation space and settled right in front of the bridge. This bridge shall be named the Netherworld Bridge, Su Zimo said calmly. From now on, those entering reincarnation must drink from the river of forgetfulness, forget all past memories. Only then may they step onto the Netherworld Bridge and enter the cycle of reincarnation. Chapter 488, Letting Them Die. As Su Zimo's words fell, the void began to stir. The tree of forgetfulness planted in front of the Netherworld Bridge began to change. Its tree form started to shrink, transforming into an old woman in gray robes. This old woman looked exactly like the form the tree of forgetfulness had taken when Su Zimo encountered it in Carefree City. From now on, you shall be called Meng Pa, Su Zimo said calmly. Your role is to provide forgetfulness water to those entering reincarnation. The old woman slowly nodded. With a wave of her hands, the water beneath the Netherworld Bridge began to surge. A vortex formed under her control. This was a brand new world. Except for the myriad beast realm, all beings stood at the same starting line. All life was new. There had not yet been a true death. Everything was beginning anew on the God world. Once his true fate world began developing smoothly, Su Zimo left and returned to his physical body. When he slowly opened his eyes, he was still in the spatial realm within the iceberg. Su Zimo recalled chaos into his true fate world and then walked out slowly. He brought Li Zhizhong with him, stepping into the air and landing back at the dock in Seaside City. The flood dragons in this sea have all been killed by me. I've fulfilled my promise, Su Zimo said calmly. The people of Seaside City can now rebuild the dock. I understand. Are you leaving now? Li Zhizhong asked. I was never from here. Su Zimo nodded slightly. Are you still planning to be the dragon-slaying hero? That old man said I'm from the flame race. I should go back and see my people. Li Zhizhong shook his head. Do you know where the flame race is? Su Zimo asked curiously. No, but I can slowly look for it. I'll find it someday. Li Zhizhong replied with a smile. That's a kind of journey too. Su Zimo nodded and didn't ask more. Li Zhizhong returned to Seaside City, while Su Zimo rode the Dark Sky Tiger, heading toward the endless sky sea that linked the northern and eastern continents. Following the coastline around a quarter of the northern continent, he would be able to take a ship back to the eastern continent. Aside from a few small surprises, this trip had gone quite well, and Su Zimo was satisfied. The sunset was beautiful, but dusk was approaching. The afternoon coastline was very quiet. The glimmering sea, dyed by the setting sun, looked like a painted ink scroll. The distant mountains glowed red in the clouds, with pink-tinged clouds and the dimming yellow sun mixing into a breathtaking twilight. Everything along the journey was peaceful. After over a month of non-stop travel on the Dark Sky Tiger, Su Zimo could finally see the coastline leading to the eastern continent in the distance. It was late autumn. The air carried a chill. The morning sun had not yet appeared, and the overcast sky felt especially heavy. Su Zimo was sitting atop the Dark Sky Tiger when he suddenly noticed a group of people approaching from behind. 3 people were running out front, clearly fleeing. A group of pursuers chased them closely. The 3 fleeing figures spotted Su Zimo and looked slightly hopeful. From a distance, they shouted, "Young master, save us. Please help us. Su Zimo glanced back without interest and lay down on the dark sky tiger, resting with his eyes half closed. The pursuers moved quickly, and before long they caught up behind Su Zimo. Su Zimo looked again. The three fleeing individuals were an old man and two young women. The old man looked like a bodyguard, shielding the woman in the middle. The woman on the left seemed to be a maid. As for the woman in the center, she wore a blue-purple long dress. Her skin was fair, and her long hair flowed down her back. Her eyes sparkled with what seemed like a sky full of stars, easily drawing people in. She had a delicate oval face, a refined look, though one earring had already fallen off. Despite several tears in her pale purple dress and fear showing on her delicate face, her appearance still stirred a strong desire in others to protect her. "Young master, help us!" the maid desperately shouted. The old man was already heavily injured, clearly near his limit. Su Zimo, watching all this, acted as if nothing was happening. He lay on the tiger with his eyes shut, resting. The dozen or so pursuers all wore red blood-colored robes, their faces hidden beneath their cloaks. "General, what should we do about this man?" one blood-robed pursuer asked the leader. The general frowned slightly and said, "Kill them all. No need for trouble." The old man finally collapsed to the ground from his wounds. He shouted to the two women, "Miss, you two run. Don't worry about me. Run. Ningbo, we won't leave you." The woman in the purple dress supported the old man, trying to drag him forward. But the blood-robed group was too fast. In just a few breaths, they had surrounded the three. "Miss, even if it costs my life, I'll carve a path through them for you," the old man roared in fury. As they surrounded the group, the leading general drew a long sword from a subordinate's waist and threw it in front of them. He said coldly, "End your lives yourselves." The old man looked at the blood-robed attackers. All their faces were hidden. He pleaded, "General Zhao, I know it's you. We'll give up the empire, abandon our revenge. Just please, let the royal bloodline continue. The emperor once trusted you deeply." "Trusted me? I was exiled to the frontier for 300 years, unable to see my family. That's what you call trust?" General Zhao shook his head. "It's not that I don't want to let the princess live, you know this. The empire is about to fall. In this chaos, no one is spared, guilty or not." "There's really no hope?" the old man begged bitterly. "Whatever you want, just say it." General Zhao was silent for a moment, then slowly shook his head. "End it yourselves. I'll give you whole corpses. Die with dignity." The old man picked up the sword, ready to fight and die for a way out. Suddenly, laughter echoed from nearby. A bunch of grown men bullying a few old folks and women. What kind of skill is that? Everyone turned their heads to see a young man walking toward them with a sword in hand. Chapter 489, Arrival at Eastern Continent. The young man wore a white robe, holding a 3-foot-long white sword. His long hair was parted in the middle, flowing down on both sides. His skin was fair, and his eyes shone brightly. As the breeze blew gently, his white robe fluttered. Anyone who saw him would marvel, "What a graceful young man!" As he walked forward step by step, endless sword intent surged around him. Su Zimo sat backward atop the dark sky tiger, watching the scene with interest. Feeling the youth's increasingly strong sword aura, General Zhao frowned slightly. "This is a matter of our eternal heaven empire," he said. "It has nothing to do with you. I'm someone who can't stand injustice," the white-robed youth replied coldly. "Running into me is your bad luck." General Zhao snorted. Several blood-robed men rushed toward the youth. But the young man only smiled calmly and gently waved his sword. A sharp sword cry rang out, followed by a spray of blood as the blood-robed men were all torn apart. General Zhao's face changed drastically. He murmured, "What a beautiful sword." He hadn't even seen the sword move. If that strike had been aimed at him, he wasn't confident he could dodge it. "Are you planning to go against the eternal heaven empire?" General Zhao asked, stepping back. "So what if I am? I, the sword gentleman, roam all of the northern continent. I've never bowed to any power, said the white-robed youth with a light smile. You're the gentleman's sword, Chen Tianyi? General Zhao asked suspiciously. Who else would dare impersonate me? The white-robed youth shook his head. I don't change my name or sit under a false title. Young Master Chen, if you insist on saving them today, I may not be able to stop you, General Zhao said flatly. But I will report this to the Emperor of Eternal Heaven. Assuming you live long enough to make it back. Chen Tianyi replied with a chilling grin. He leapt into the air, his sword turning into a massive wave of sword energy and slashing forward. General Zhao's expression turned grave. As the pressure of his Imperial Meridian realm burst out, he managed to track the strike, but underestimated its power. With a loud boom, the sword energy slashed straight through General Zhao's forehead, cutting him clean in two. His face still bore a trace of confusion as his body fell. Chen Tianyi walked over to the group and smiled at the girl in the purple dress. Are you all right, beautiful lady? He asked. I'm fine. Thank you, young Master Chen, she quickly replied gratefully. Chen Tianyi smiled and took out a pill from his storage ring, handing it to the old man. You're too badly injured to recover quickly. This might help. Thank you, young master. I will remember this favor forever, the old man said gratefully. We'll meet again if fate allows, Chen Tianyi said with a slight nod. Then he sheathed his sword and walked away. Watching his back as he left, the girl in the purple dress chuckled. I didn't expect the famed sword gentleman to be the same age as me. The rumors were true. He's cultivating righteousness. The old man reminded her. Miss, we should leave quickly. If more pursuers come, we'll be in trouble. What about your injuries, Uncle Ning? She asked. It's nothing, the old man quickly replied. Chen Tianyi walked straight ahead. As he passed Su Zimo, he chuckled lightly. Brother, that was rather heartless of you. Oh, Su Zimo asked with interest. As cultivators, we should help those in need, lend our swords to justice. To sit idly and let others die, that's not right. Chen Tianyi shook his head. Are you trying to teach me how to act? Su Zimo said with a smile. Chen Tianyi laughed and waved as he walked away. There are thousands of people with thousands of ways to live. Su Zimo didn't stop him. He acted by mood, he'd help if he wanted, and no one had the right to judge him if he didn't. This small incident didn't bother him. He continued walking along the coastline toward the eastern continent docks, where thousands of ships waited. From a distance, he could already make out their outlines. After 3 more days of travel, Su Zimo finally arrived at the docks. It was lively and bustling, full of people coming and going. Ships departed for the eastern continent, while others returned. The noise of people and ship horns filled the air. 5 more spots to the eastern continent. This is a Luo clan ship, guarded by an Imperial Meridian Realm cultivator. Sign up quickly. We depart in 30 minutes. Docked ships had their crews shouting loudly to attract passengers. Whenever a ship left, another quickly took its place. Su Zimo casually boarded one of the Luo clan ships. It wasn't very large. With the crew and guards included, it could only carry about 50 passengers since each needed their own room. Most spots were already filled. As Su Zimo walked aboard, many passengers were chatting on the deck. Among them, he saw Chen Tianyi, who smiled at him. Su Zimo found a spot on the deck and sat down. Just before the ship set sail, the girl in the purple dress and the old man also boarded with their maid. Well, it seems fate brings us together again, Su Zimo said with a light smile. Once the ship was full, it began its journey toward the eastern continent. Su Zimo looked out at the vast ocean and the massive continent on the horizon, feeling a touch of emotion. He'd been away from the true martial sacred ground for so long and hadn't expected to feel homesick. At first, most of the passengers stayed on deck to chat and enjoy the view. The purple-dressed girl and Chen Tianyi sat together, laughing and talking. The old man stood guard from a distance. The maid bustled around, preparing food for the two. As she passed Su Zimo, she snorted coldly, clearly still angry at him for not helping before. Since Su Zimo was sitting not far from them, he could vaguely hear their conversation. The girl had changed into a light blue dress and applied light makeup. She looked even more elegant and beautiful than before. As they chatted peacefully, a young man in golden robes holding a folding fan suddenly sat down at their table. Chapter 490 My Fist is Bigger. The youth in the golden robes slowly sat down at the table, smiling as he looked at the girl in the purple dress and asked, "Miss, may I get to know you?" The girl politely smiled but didn't answer, turning instead to chat with Chan Tianyi. The golden-robed youth looked a little embarrassed. He signaled with his eyes. 2 guards behind him stepped forward and placed their hands on Chan Tianyi's shoulders. "Sir, could you give up your seat?" they said with a smile. Chan Tianyi frowned slightly and was about to speak when he suddenly felt his sword tremble slightly behind him. He glanced in the direction it was pointing and saw a one-armed elder standing at the edge of the deck. Su Zimo had seen this man before. His title was Bloodthirsty Mad Blade. Su had sailed with him on his way to the northern continent from the east. He hadn't expected to run into him again. Chan Tianyi clearly recognized the one-armed elder and paused for a moment. His furrowed brows eased, and he turned to the guards with a faint smile. "I'm the type who enjoys helping people fulfill their wishes. I'll take my leave then." He stood up, ready to walk away. "Young Master Chen," the purple-robed girl called out. "It's all right, I'll be nearby. If anything happens, just call for me." Chan Tianyi smiled reassuringly, then walked toward the bloodthirsty Mad Blade. As Chan Tianyi left, the golden-robed youth turned to the purple-robed girl and chuckled. "May I know your name, miss?" The girl's expression soured slightly, but she still politely replied, "Ning Kai Dai." "So it's Miss Kai Dai. I am Jin Qiqing," the young man said, flashing what he thought was a charming smile. But Ning Kai Dai didn't seem particularly interested and only smiled politely. The maid beside her rolled her eyes and said to Jin Qiqing, "Young Master Jin, my lady has something weighing on her mind. If her concerns aren't addressed, she won't be in the mood to chat." "What concerns?" Jin Qiqing asked with interest. "On our way here, we were harassed by some thugs. At the time, we were in danger, and a young man passed by who could have helped us. But he ignored us. If it hadn't been for young Master Chun saving us, you wouldn't even be seeing my lady now. And now that same man is on this very ship. Of course, my lady isn't in a good mood." The maid, with a bit of cleverness, spoke bluntly. Ning Katie's face changed slightly. She called out, "Little Ling." "Miss, I was just telling the truth," the maid said stubbornly. Ning Kai-dai sighed softly. Little Ing was her personal maid since childhood. Although they were master and servant, they were like sisters. After everything she'd gone through, she didn't have the heart to scold her. She turned to Jin Qiqing and said, "Apologies, young Master Jin. Little Ing was spoiled by me growing up. Please don't take her words seriously." "I actually think she's right," Jin Qiqing said coldly. "Anyone who could let such a beautiful girl suffer like that can't be much of a man." "Exactly," Little Ing agreed, making a face. "Tell me, who was it?" Jin Qiqing asked. Little Ing glanced at Su Zimo's direction but said nothing. Su Zimo was leaning back on a deck chair, eyes closed, enjoying the sea breeze. Jin Qiqing, followed by his 2 guards, slowly approached him. "Hey kid, our young master wants to see you," the guards shouted, shaking Su Zimo's chair. Su Zimo yawned, opened his eyes slowly, and looked at them. "Something you need?" "Apologize," Jin Qiqing said, pointing toward Ning Kai-dai. "Go apologize to that young lady." "Are you retarded or something?" Su Zimo replied, baffled. "Apologize for your rudeness and for letting her suffer in danger," Jin Qiqing said coolly. "I barely know her. What's wrong with not getting involved?" Su Zimo replied. "You're not wrong." Jin Qiqing suddenly lowered his head, speaking with a cold tone. "But I like that girl. So you must apologize. Because my fist is bigger." "You guys really have the worst way of courting women," Su Zimo said with a shake of his head. Someone once told me, if you like someone, force it. The fruit may not be sweet, but it quenches thirst. Also, did you say your fist is bigger? Su Zimo chuckled. What's so funny? Jin Qiqing frowned. Have you ever seen a fist the size of a sandbag? Su Zimo asked, slowly raising his right fist. Kid, quit the nonsense. Will you apologize or do I need to? Before Jin Qiqing could finish, a huge fist filled his vision. With a loud impact, he felt like his nose had been crushed. All kinds of sensations surged through his face as he flew backward. He stood up groaning, holding his nose and screaming in pain. The two guards froze, then rushed to help him. You're finished. Do you know who our young master is? One guard shouted at Su Zimo. Yeah. Go on. Do your routine. Su Zimo yawned, waving his hand. Our young master is the eldest son of the Jin clan of Gold Forest City. Even if you beg for mercy now, it's too late. Since there's no chance of reconciliation, Su Zimo said lightly, I may as well just kill you all. He began walking slowly toward them. The two guards dragged Jin Qiqing back in panic. Just then, a group of people emerged from a nearby cabin. What's all this noise? A middle-aged man called out sternly. Leading the group was a young woman, around the same age as Su Zimo. She wore a fitted suit of female armor. Her long hair was tied back with a black ribbon. She had sharp phoenix eyes and slender brows. Her nose was high. Her first impression was one of strength and confidence, bold and valiant, a true heroine. Among the group were the bloodthirsty Mad Blade and Chen Tianyi. As the middle-aged man barked the question, Jin Qiqing quickly came to his senses. He shouted, Father, sister, help me. Someone's trying to kill me. What happened? The middle-aged man stepped forward, frowning as powerful energy radiated from him, ready for a fight. Chapter 491 Jade Beast appears. The armored young woman quickly said, Father, don't be hasty. We should understand the situation first. You explain what's going on? The middle-aged man glared at the nearby guards and asked angrily. The two guards trembled all over, not daring to hide anything, and told the whole story in detail. After hearing it, the middle-aged man frowned slightly and looked at Su Zimo. Even if my son was at fault, you think you can bully someone from the Jin clan? What a hassle! Su Zimo shook his head. In that case, why don't you gather all the members of the Jin clan in a line? I'll just kill them all at once. You? The middle-aged man grunted, and the aura of an Empyrean Meridian Realm cultivator surged from him. Father, don't forget why we're on this trip, the young woman beside him said. Zhaoer, what do you mean? The man asked, suppressing his anger. Jin Qijiao took a deep breath and calmly said, Father, let me handle this matter. She turned to Su Zimo and said, Young master, regardless of the circumstances, even if my brother started it, you did strike him. Why don't we call it even? Zhaoer, you? The middle-aged man looked surprised. Even Jin Qiqing looked confused. Sister, you're just letting me get hit for nothing? Jin Qijiao didn't look at anyone else. Her eyes stayed on Su Zimo, waiting for his reply. Su Zimo glanced at the one-armed elder, the bloodthirsty Mad Blade. That elder had seen his strength on the ship. He must have given Jin Qijiao a warning. Otherwise, this incident wouldn't have ended so easily. Doesn't matter to me, Su Zimo said, returning the elder's smile, then turned and reclined on the lounge chair again. Zhaoer, why? The middle-aged man asked in confusion. I won't allow anything to go wrong with this mission, Father. You understand why? Jin Qijiao said coolly. There's no need to stir up trouble. The man snorted but didn't say more. Even though the Jin clan was the top clan in Gold Forest City, it had gradually declined in recent years. Now that his daughter had joined Skyblade sect and become the sect leader's personal disciple, the family's future depended on her. He dared not go against her. More importantly, his daughter had always been strong-willed and independent, always striving to be better than others. After the conflict died down, the middle-aged man and Jin Qiqing left in a gloomy mood. Jin Qizhao then looked to the bloodthirsty Mad Blade and asked softly, "Master, is he really that powerful? He looks about my age." "Zhao, never underestimate the people of the world," the elder said with a shake of his head. "Even I am just a speck of dust in the tides of fate. Always remember, there's always someone stronger." "I'll remember." Jin Qizhao nodded seriously. The ship continued sailing forward. Su Zimo noticed something interesting. Every day, crew members sprinkled some kind of powder around the ship. He didn't know what it was. By noon on the third day, the weather cleared up with brilliant sunshine. A blazing sun hung in the sky, lighting up the waves and making the sea glisten. Just as the passengers were resting, a loud boom was heard. With it came a beast's roar and a powerful impact. It felt as if something had slammed into the ship, causing it to shake violently. "Activate the formation." Jin Qizhao had clearly anticipated this and gave calm orders. A six-pointed star formation lit up under the ship, and violent spiritual energy surged. A blue barrier formed around the entire vessel. The thing outside kept slamming into the ship, rocking it more and more violently. Several times it almost capsized. Waves surged wildly. What was once calm sea now roared with angry tides. Under the storm, a massive black shadow suddenly covered the ship. People looked up in fear and saw a giant beast, shaped like a bat, towering over 100 meters tall. Its entire body was dark gray, between black and ash. Its surface was smooth, with two wings connected at the waist. Its head was triangular, and its facial features were so small they were barely visible. The moment this monster appeared, its size dwarfed the ship by several times. "It's a jade beast, a jade beast!" some frightened passengers shouted. "There are still jade beasts alive? Looks like our intel was correct." The bloodthirsty Mad Blade narrowed his eyes and said coldly. His voice was grim, and the sharp intent from his blade began to spread. Everyone knew he had a deep grudge against the jade beasts. In the early days of the Imperial era, both humans and beasts were weakened after their great war. The Jade race took that chance to seize control of the endless Sky Sea. It was a dark age for the region. His father was killed by a jade beast. He had spent his life fighting them. Eventually, with help from many forces, he wiped out their race and liberated the sea. He never thought one would appear again. When the jade beast appeared, aside from a few panicked passengers, most stayed calm, because their mission was precisely about this creature. "Senior Mad Blade, how were you sure the jade beast would attack us?" Jin Haijo, head of the Jin clan, asked in confusion. "Because of the powder we spread around the ship," the elder replied calmly. "What was it?" "The ashes of its kin." "Then what do we do about this jade beast?" Jin Haijo asked, stunned. "It's still in its juvenile stage, but that doesn't make it easy to deal with," said the elder. "If we can capture it alive. If not, killing it is fine too." The jade beast loomed hundreds of meters tall. Its dark eyes stared at the ship. Its aura was powerful, clearly at the Empyrean Meridian level. Now, a bit about jade beasts. Unlike normal monsters that grow over time, jade beasts must devour immense amounts of energy. Only power can evolve them from juvenile to mature stage. Without it, they'll remain juveniles forever, dying in that form. It's easy to tell a jade beast stage. Anything below the God Meridian realm is a juvenile. Only once it enters the immortal path does it become mature. Chapter 492, The Fall. As the enormous body of the jade beast stirred up towering waves, a loud boom echoed out, and cracks began to appear in the formation barrier surrounding the entire ship. "Move out," said the one-armed elder, bloodthirsty Mad Blade, in a deep voice. As his words fell, 7 people stepped forward from the crowd. All 7 wore purple robes, and their auras were subtly linked, flowing seamlessly together. Each held an identical iron chain. The clinking of chains rang out as the 7 moved in unison, walking forward slowly. "It's the 7 sons of the Skyblade," someone in the crowd shouted excitedly. The 7 sons of the Skyblade were the sect leader's 7 personal disciples. Each one was a peerless genius with a renowned reputation. Because of their exceptional talent, they were collectively known by this title. Among them, Su Zimo spotted Chen Tianyi. Chen Tianyi, the sword gentleman, actually had a deep connection with the Skyblade sect. Though he was bloodthirsty Mad Blade's disciple, he had no interest in blades. Instead, he was obsessed with swordsmanship. Because of this, he was nearly expelled from the sect, but his master couldn't bear to see him go. So, in secret, the elder taught him sword techniques. Although his master used a blade at his level of cultivation, one method led to understanding of all. Eventually, Chen Tianyi became the most famous and strongest among the 7 sons of the Skyblade. Now, the 7 of them rose into the air together, heading straight for the Jade Beast. Loud explosions echoed beneath them. Chains clinked as they spun through the air. Bloodthirsty Mad Blade looked serious, presiding over the battle from the sky. His aura at the God Meridian realm surged like a vast sea. The Jade Beast roared into the sky, creating massive storms that actually pushed the ship faster across the sea. Seeing the 7 rushing toward it, the beast spread its massive wings and slammed down. The space around shattered in layers. With a deafening boom, its wings struck like an unstoppable force. The 7 sons of the Skyblade were all sent flying. The Jade Beast's roar shook the sky and earth with terrifying might. "Use the chains to bind it," bloodthirsty Mad Blade shouted. The 7 disciples responded. Their auras surged, some at the Imperial Meridian level, others at the Empyrean Meridian. Their chains began to glow with a dark gray light. Roars echoed from the chains, as phantom images of Jade Beasts appeared on each one. Each chain bore one phantom, and these illusions radiated intense power, pressing down on the real Jade Beast. Su Zimo, watching from the cabin, saw everything clearly. These chains were no ordinary materials. They were forged from the remains and spirits of dead Jade Beasts. Used properly, they could greatly suppress a Jade Beast. In the sky, bloodthirsty Mad Blade's face remained cold. His God Meridian realm aura spread like a storm. After ending the Jade Beast race in the dark era of the Endless Sky Sea, he had crafted these chains just in case, knowing he might one day be unable to stop them on his own. Now, as the Jade Beast looked at the chains, a flicker of fear passed through its eyes. The 7 chains, controlled by the 7 sons, danced through the air. Each seemed to transform into a Jade Beast itself, roaring as they flew. All 7 chains hurled toward the Jade Beast. It roared louder, earth-shakingly, and opened its wings to swat at the chains. The spiritual energy in the air surged wildly, collapsing newly repaired space again. But when the wings struck the chains, they didn't break. Instead, the chains clung to the wings like they were gnawing into them. The chains trembled, and the phantoms upon them suppressed the beast even harder. Each chain pierced and bound a different part of its body. Wings, legs, abdomen, and neck, 7 points total. The 7 sons poured their energy into holding the chains. Together, they dragged the Jade Beast from the sea and suspended it midair. The beast struggled fiercely, but the pressure from the phantom chains was too much. It couldn't break free. Seeing it restrained, bloodthirsty Mad Blade slowly drew the long blade from his back. The blade trembled with a resonating clang. It was 4 feet long, amber-like in texture, glowing blood red. Gripping it with his left hand, the one-armed elder unleashed his full God Meridian aura. The spirit force over the Endless Sky Sea boiled and surged toward the blade. As more and more energy gathered, the crimson glow on the blade deepened, becoming eerie and intense. His blade intent surged so strongly it became tangible, tearing even his robe apart. With a roar, he slashed the long blade across the silent sky. Space shattered everywhere. The infinite blade aura burst into a wave that tore through space and raised monstrous waves, slashing toward the Jade Beast. The Jade Beast roared and thrashed wildly. The slash pierced its abdomen. Dark black blood gushed out, staining the sea below and releasing an unbearable stench. But the Jade Beast was tenacious. It continued to struggle violently. After the strike, the elder fell slowly back onto the ship's deck. His face turned pale and he nearly collapsed. He sheathed the blade and rested for a long time before regaining his breath. Jin Qizhao hurried over and held him up. "Master, are you injured?" she asked with concern. "I'm fine." He shook his head lightly. "Just an old wound." "From that battle long ago?" she asked. That war with the Jade Race was known across the entire primordial heartlands. But few knew that the elder had suffered a wound in that war that could never fully heal. It ended his cultivation path, keeping him from ever reaching immortality. "It's nothing. Once these jade beasts are wiped out, I'll retire to the mountains," he said with a smile. "Seeing you all grow up into such talents, I'm very proud." Chapter 493, Enter the Scene. In midair, the roars of the jade beast grew weaker and its resistance noticeably lessened. Its entire body had been stained ink-black with its own blood. Seeing that the jade beast was barely clinging to life, the 7 sons of the Skyblade dragged it with the chains and brought it to the deck of the ship. The passengers all stopped and watched from a distance. "So this is a jade beast?" someone whispered. "Master," the 7 sons called out, all a bit excited. This was their first time slaying a jade beast. The vitality of jade beasts is incredibly strong. Even though it looks near death now, if we don't suppress it, it will recover quickly. The one-armed elder ordered. "You all keep watch over it. Once we reach the eastern continent, it won't be as powerful on land." After the incident with the jade beast ended, the ship continued safely toward the eastern continent. Su Zimo could already make out its outline in the distance. From afar, Dragon City appeared faintly visible, and the giant dragon god seemed to be coiled upon the land. At dawn, the violet sun rose into the sky from the east. The dock of the eastern continent came into full view, with hundreds of ships lined up in the water. After the long journey, many passengers came to the deck, gazing at the eastern continent within sight. But at that moment, a roar rang out from the rear of the ship. A massive tidal wave surged forth, crashing down unexpectedly. The wave rose into the sky, catching everyone off guard. The masts and sails were shattered instantly, and the cabins flooded in multiple spots. Some people were even thrown directly into the sea. The wave's force was terrifying. Chen Tianyi reacted quickly. Seeing the towering wave about to crash down, he drew his sword and slashed at it. With a loud boom, the wave split apart in midair, spraying water everywhere. But the immense force of the wave sent Chen Tianyi flying. With a heavy thud, he slammed into the side of the deck, his back bloodied and mangled. The girl in the purple dress, Ning Kai Dai, rushed over and quickly helped him up. "Chun, are you all right?" she asked, concerned. "I'm fine. You should get to safety with the others." Chen Tianyi waved her off, staring ahead grimly. After the wave subsided, the sea churned in fury like a raging beast. Wave after wave rolled in, and beneath them, a massive black shadow began to surface. The one-armed elder's face turned pale when he saw it. He whispered, "Another jade beast." Everyone, whether the 7 sons or the passengers, stood in stunned silence. Not only was there more than one jade beast, but this new one was far larger. It was nearly 1,000 meters tall, like a small city in size. Its aura was far more oppressive, and the storms and waves around it roared violently. To it, the ship seemed like nothing more than a drifting leaf on the sea. Tossed in the massive waves, the ship floated like a helpless ant. "A jade beast at the God Meridian realm," the elder finally spoke after observing it closely. His long hair, soaked by the sea, clung to his face as he stood on the water. He tried to draw his bloodthirsty blade again, but the last battle had taken too much out of him. His injuries wouldn't allow him to fight anymore. Seeing the new jade beast appear, the 7 sons of the Skyblade exchanged glances and stepped forward once more. Their auras surged, and the iron chains glowed with that dark gray light again, flying toward the jade beast. The phantom shadows on the chains roared, but this new jade beast merely glanced at them with contempt. With a sweep of its wings, it raised a colossal wave that shattered all 7 phantoms. Even the chains were torn apart and destroyed by the sea. The seven sons spat out blood, wounded by the destruction of their spiritual tools. Faced with this overwhelming power, despair swept across the passengers. "I told you we shouldn't have come. Now we're all going to die here," muttered Jin Haijo, the head of the Jin clan, pacing in panic. "You were the one who said coming would improve relations with the Skyblade sect," Jin Qijiao replied calmly. Elsewhere, the maid Littling asked anxiously, "Miss, what do we do?" Ning Kai-dai sighed lightly and said, "I didn't die in the Empire's war, but now I'll be buried at sea. Maybe this is fate. Help us!" Some passengers shouted desperately toward the dock of the eastern continent. But it was futile. The Jade Beast surrounded the ship with raging storms. There was no escape. Anyone who jumped off would be torn apart instantly. The monstrous beast hovered above, looking down emotionlessly at everyone. Then, shockingly, it spoke. "You killed beasts of my Jade race and forged them into chains. No matter who you are, you all deserve to be torn limb from limb. I've killed enough of your kind in this life. I don't care anymore. I only regret not being able to kill you too," the one-armed elder said calmly. The Jade Beast was enraged, roaring to the sky. It raised its wings and slammed down a wave big enough to swallow the ship whole. At that moment, a blade light suddenly flashed. The massive waves were shattered completely, and the blade light soared into the clouds, seemingly slicing the sky apart. "Who is it?" the Jade Beast growled, glaring at the ship. "Big guy, can we talk?" Su Zimo stood up from his recliner, yawning and stretching. "I'm in a hurry to get home. Can you let me go first? You guys can settle your score after we dock." Everyone stared at Su Zimo in disbelief. Is this guy crazy? At a time like this, he dares to talk like that. Someone mumbled, "Ant, you seek death." The Jade Beast roared and slammed its wing down in fury. The sky filled with waves as they crashed toward him. "Sigh, what a pain." Su Zimo sighed. At that moment, sharp blade energy rose from his body. Shadow Tyrant unsheathed. He stepped into the air, each footfall shattering the space beneath him. His aura at the God Meridian realm spread like a storm. Northern winds howled. Clouds churned. Towering waves rose. The space beneath him cracked with each step, and the blade intent from Shadow Tyrant split half the sky in two. Chapter 494 Return to Eastern Continent. As Su Zimo stepped through the air, the entire sea fell silent. Even the surrounding surging waves were suppressed and gradually calmed down. This. The people inside the ship were stunned, unable to speak clearly. "He's gotten even stronger." The one-armed old man narrowed his eyes and muttered. The last time he had met Su Zimo, the latter was still at the Empyrean Meridian stage. Unexpectedly, he had now stepped into the God Meridian stage. The one-armed old man felt a chill down his spine. How young was he, really? Could he truly be an emperor in the making? The old man didn't dare to imagine further. Chun Tiany's eyes flickered as he stared at Su Zimo in silence. The woman in the purple dress, Ning Kai-dai, also murmured to herself, "He's so strong. Why didn't he save us earlier?" "Miss He." The maid Littling beside her didn't dare to speak too much. Su Zimo held Shadow Tyrant, blade energy surrounding him like a prison, his gaze casually falling on the beast before him. He activated War God's blue cloud directly, and strands of light science spirit force rose slowly behind him. The moment the mystical sound rang out, a green mist shrouded his back, and layers of green stone steps formed beneath him. The green stones spread upward toward the heavens through the fog, as if challenging the sky itself. Su Zimo's aura also skyrocketed in an instant. When the power of creation filled the air around him, Su Zimo suddenly stopped, and in less than a blink of an eye, he had already appeared in front of the beast. He raised Shadow Tyrant high, with boundless spirit force and indomitable blade intent gathering in the sky. Boom! As the curved blade came crashing down, the beast felt a dreadful force descending. Its entire body slowed under the pressure, and it hurriedly stretched out its wings to defend itself. Poof! Black blood spurted into the air as the blade crushed everything in its path. The wings that once blotted out the sky were directly severed. The beast let out a painful roar. "What's the point? I didn't want to kill you." Suzimo shook his head slightly and said, "I originally wanted to leave your race a chance to continue, but you didn't treasure it. So it's fine for you humans to kill us beasts, but not the other way around?" The beast sneered. "This logic is ridiculous," it said. "Our grievances go way back, to the dark era of the endless sky sea. Do you even know about that?" The one-armed old man interjected. "This isn't about who's right or wrong. I know, whoever has the bigger fist is right, right?" The beast snorted heavily. "Anyway, I've lost you now. Kill me or torture me. Do as you please. If you're not afraid of death, then I'll slowly torture you," Suzimo said with a faint smile. "Can't take the heat?" The beast was stunned, then quickly responded. "Didn't you say you were in a hurry to go home? Give me a quick death, and you'll get home faster too." Suzimo shook his head and looked at the one-armed old man, saying, "You all go ahead. I want to talk to it alone." "Young master, this beast cannot be released," the one-armed old man advised. "If we let it go and it grows strong enough to terrorize the sea again, what then?" "I know. Just go," Suzimo said calmly. The old man could only nod. He watched the ship fade into the mist as it sailed away. "What are you trying to do?" the beast asked warily. "Want to follow me?" Suzimo asked. "Follow you?" The beast looked surprised. The beast race. A storm rose across the endless sea as Suzimo lay on the beast's back. The beast was fast. In this sea, they were like fish in water. In just a dozen minutes, the beast carried Suzimo to a dock on the eastern continent. Once on the dock, Suzimo summoned his true fate world and absorbed the beast into the territory of the myriad beast realm. The rest would be handled by chaos. Having traveled tirelessly, Suzimo had no intention of resting. He was carried by the Dark Sky Tiger the whole way, so he was happy to take it easy. Arriving from Dragon City of the eastern continent, Suzimo headed toward its core region. Traveling day and night, after nearly half a month, he finally arrived at the heart of the continent. The sky was growing dark. Not far ahead, a city glowed with lights. It was a large city. Suzimo decided to rest there for the night. As he approached, he realized this city was unusual. The city walls were blood red, made from blood-colored bricks. On the city gate were carvings of two skulls. Looking up, Suzimo saw the characters Blood Slaughter City written above. "Looks like I've arrived in the territory ruled by the Blood Nether Sacred Ground," he said with a light chuckle. The Blood Nether Sacred Ground was one of the imperial lineages of the eastern continent, founded by the infamous Grand Emperor Shui Ming, known for his brutality and battle prowess. He had established the imperial lineage here, which had lasted for over 10,000 years. Blood Slaughter City wasn't particularly ancient or famous, but it was one of the few large cities in this territory. Most of the Blood Nether Sacred Ground's disciples were known for their cruelty, and the sect was considered the one that most resembled a demonic sect among the imperial lineages. When Suzimo entered the city, he was stopped and questioned by the guards on both sides. He answered simply and was allowed to pass. The city was large, and even at night, the main streets were bustling. However, Suzimo could still sense the underlying tension beneath the lively surface. Guards patrolled and searched frequently, clearly indicating something was wrong. Suzimo found an inn. It wasn't crowded. Since it was late, the innkeeper had gone to rest, and only a sleepy waiter was lying on the table yawning. Seeing Suzimo walk in, the waiter quickly stood up and said with a smile, "Welcome, guest. Looking for a room?" "A room? Is there anything to eat?" Suzimo asked. "Sorry, the cook is already off duty," the waiter apologized. "Then give me a good room and bring a jar of fine wine," Suzimo said as he sat down at a table. After a sip of wine, Suzimo took a deep breath and asked the waiter, "Hey, has something happened here in Blood Slaughter City recently?" "You must be new," the waiter said with interest. "A few days ago, the city lord's son was killed. and now the whole city is hunting the assassin. No wonder. Suzimo nodded slightly. Just as he was drinking, the door of the inn suddenly swung open. Chapter 495, The Man of Destiny. A woman carrying a giant axe on her back slowly walked in. She wasn't particularly beautiful, but her features were clean and decent. She wore a black long robe with light blue trousers underneath. Her hair was cut short, just to her ears, with arched eyebrows and phoenix-like eyes. The moment she stepped into the inn, Suzimo immediately sensed something unusual. His hell-suppressing demon physique reacted, as if excited, like it had encountered another battle physique. Suzimo figured that for his physique to react so strongly, it couldn't be due to just any of the 100 battle physiques. There was only one possibility: it had to be one of the top 3 battle bodies. In other words, the woman possessed a top 3 ranked battle physique. He had already met the owner of the 3rd ranked battle physique, Jiang Macho. If not for the mysterious old man who suddenly appeared and took Jiang Macho away, Suzimo would have had little Gue capture him long ago. As for the woman in front of him, she most likely possessed the 2nd ranked battle physique, the Army Breaker Imperial physique. Interesting. Suzimo took a sip of wine, watching the woman before him with interest. The tides of the Great Era were growing more chaotic. Heaven's will was about to take shape, and more prodigies were emerging. Now, with all 3 top battle bodies revealed, this was something that had never happened in past eras. Just like the prophecy said, this would be an incredibly brilliant age. Suzimo could see her cultivation at a glance peak Imperial Meridian realm, nearly breaking into the Empyrean Meridian stage. But unlocking the Meridian gates at this stage was incredibly difficult. This step would likely take her quite a bit of time. At that moment, it wasn't just Suzimo observing the woman. She was also watching him closely. Since entering the inn, her Army Breaker Imperial physique had been trembling uncontrollably. It was a kind of trembling that carried a mixture of fear and defiance. This was the first time since obtaining her battle physique that she had experienced something like this. Tangeline instantly recalled something her master had once told her. She accepted the 2nd-ranked battle physique, and with it came her mission. "That man in my destiny," she murmured, looking at Suzimo. "You're here to stay too, right?" The inn's waiter came over and asked quickly. "Same as him. Bring me a jar of wine," Tangeline said calmly. She walked up to Suzimo and asked flatly, "Mind if I sit here?" "Go ahead," Suzimo nodded. After sitting down, Tangeline took the wine jar from the waiter and didn't bother with a cup. She lifted the jar and took a big swig, then smiled at Suzimo. "Do you believe in destiny?" "No." Suzimo shook his head. "Why not?" Tangeline asked curiously. "The strong use the idea of destiny to deceive the weak into giving up resistance," Suzimo replied. "If destiny is real, then who decides it? And what is the destiny of the one who sets destiny?" Hearing this, Tangeline was silent for a while. After a moment, she spoke. "But my destiny tells me that resistance is useless. Some battles are inevitable. In this world, there will always be success and failure. I don't know what you're talking about, and I don't care about any destiny." Suzimo shook his head. "All I know is, either be a coward, or if you stand in my way, I'll tear you to pieces." "I want to spar with you," Tangeline said seriously as she slowly took the giant axe from her back. "You're too weak. Also," Suzimo pointed outside the inn, "take care of your own trouble first." Just as he finished speaking, a loud boom sounded. The inn's door was kicked open, with splinters flying everywhere. Someone outside shouted, "City Lord, I saw her with my own eyes just now. That woman entered this inn." As the voice rang out, a group of people entered the inn. The waiter was so frightened he lay flat on the ground, not daring to move. These people were all city guards, led by a middle-aged man in a red robe. Beside him stood an old man in green. "Demon woman, let's see where you run now," the middle-aged man shouted at Tangeline. "You killed my son. Today you'll die in Blood Slaughter City with him." "I never planned to run," That was just wishful thinking on your part, Tangeline said calmly as she stood up. The giant axe in her hand released a sharp aura. She held the axe in front of her and slashed down hard. A beam of axe light burst out from the blade with a loud boom, slicing the entire inn in half. The middle-aged man and the old man dodged quickly, but the guards behind them were all annihilated. Peak Emperor Meridian Stage, the middle-aged man said grimly. His name was Xue Fengyun, the city lord of Bloodslaughter City. But his own strength was only at the Emperor Meridian Stage. Elder Xue, I'll need your help. Xue Fengyun turned to the old man beside him. His expression was serious. This woman is no ordinary person. I might not be able to take her. Let's attack together and end this quickly. Elder Xue nodded slightly, and both men unleashed their Emperor Meridian Realm aura. Your son disrespected me, tried to have the guards drag me into his mansion. I had no choice but to kill him. I didn't intend to slaughter the innocent, but now, you deserve to die too. Tangeline snorted coldly as the axe in her hand burst with intense energy. Though her figure was slim, she wielded the massive axe with ease, her moves wide and forceful. Every strike carried immense power. Xue Fengyun and Elder Xue were being completely overwhelmed. The entire inn was destroyed by the axe, and nearby buildings collapsed as well. Only Su Zimo's table remained untouched, as he sat in the ruins sipping his wine, watching the fight. This woman not only had more combat experience, but even her vein techniques were extremely advanced. Xue Fengyun and Elder Xue grew more alarmed as they fought, their hands already torn with deep gashes. Miss, we've already reported this to the Blood Nether Sacred Sect. They'll be sending people soon. You still have time to escape, Xue Fengyun shouted. He was already exhausted. To save himself, he had to reveal this information. Shut up, Tangeline snorted. The axe in her hand grew sharper, black spiritual energy swirling around it. It looked as if a terrifying, ferocious face was roaring on the axe blade. Tangeline's hair fluttered as the axe shone with brilliance, tearing through layers of space, striking down hard. Xue Fengyun and Elder Xue's eyes widened in horror, knowing they couldn't dodge in time. Just then, a loud voice shouted from the distance. Stop! A beam of radiant light flew in and with a loud boom, shattered Tangeline's giant axe into pieces. Chapter 496 Power of Army Breaker Imperial Physique. As the giant axe in her hand was shattered, a figure stepped through the air from afar. The figure wore a purple robe, radiating thick holy pressure all around. Vast spirit force rose at his feet, each step like crossing a day and night. As the figure approached, Xue Fengyun's face lit up with joy. He shouted, Elder Jingyu, save me. The elder named Xue Jingyu frowned slightly and scolded. A city lord, panicking like this, what a disgrace. Xue Fengyun quickly lowered his head, not daring to speak again. Although the gap between the Emperor Meridian and Empyrean Meridian realms was slight, within the Blood Nether Sacred Ground, they were treated entirely differently. An Imperial Meridian cultivator could serve as a city lord, while an Empyrean Meridian cultivator was a core elder of the sect. Aside from the Sacred Lord, they were the most powerful figures. And now, with his life in this man's hands, Xue Fengyun naturally didn't dare argue. Who are you? Xue Jingyu asked harshly, unleashing his Empyrean Meridian pressure upon Tangeline. You dare kill an elder of my Blood Nether Sacred Ground? He provoked me first. I was just forced to retaliate, Tangeline replied calmly. I don't care if it was retaliation or not. You're coming back to the lineage with me to await judgment. Xue Jingyu snorted coldly and reached out his large hand. You people are too used to being in power, always thinking a few words can decide someone's life or death, Tangeline replied coldly. When the giant hand came down, its coverage was vast. Knowing she couldn't dodge, Tangeline had no choice but to meet it head-on. As Tangeline's fists collided with the descending hand, she only resisted for a brief moment before being smashed into the ground. A massive, deep five-fingered handprint appeared on the ground. Stop struggling. The gap between Imperial Meridian and Empyrean Meridian is a chasm you can't cross. Xue Jingyu said coldly. Is that so? Dust filled the air. As it settled, Tan Jeline slowly stood from the deep crater. Her black robe was covered in dust, and even her short hair was disheveled. A powerful imperial pressure surged from within her. I'd like to test how strong you really are. Tan Jeline smiled faintly, her face slightly pale. A cracking sound came from her body, like bones being dislocated. She then began pulling her bones out one by one, condensing a giant axe from the white bones in front of her. Her skin turned bronze-colored, and her short hair lengthened, forming numerous braids. A golden axe mark appeared on her forehead. As she gripped the axe, a powerful wave of energy rippled out from her. The surrounding space shattered, and even Xue Jingyu was forced to take a step back. So this is the boost granted by the Army Breaker Imperial Physique. Su Zimo murmured to himself from the side. What is that? Xue Jingyu asked in shock and confusion. You don't even know about the 100 battle physiques? Tan Jeline replied calmly. She raised the white bone axe, its edge gleaming with a chilling light. The golden axe mark on her forehead flashed as she vanished and reappeared in front of Xue Jingyu in a flash. With a loud boom, the giant axe crashed down. Blood flew through the air, and Xue Jingyu was sent flying. How is this possible? He shouted in disbelief. This is no ordinary battle body. Does it matter to a man about to die? Tan Jeline replied. She moved fast, the golden axe mark flashing again and again. Her attacks were extremely fierce, and the axe in her hand seemed to have powerful cutting abilities and ignored defenses. Every strike was heavy, and in just a few moves, Xue Jingyu was covered in blood, his body torn all over. You deserve to die. Xue Jingyu lifted his head, licking the blood from his wrist, eyes glaring darkly at Tan Jeline. Annoying. Tan Jeline didn't give him a moment to breathe. She swung the giant axe again. Xue Jingyu let out a roar, slowly spreading his arms, blood surging from his body into the sky. It was as if his blood were burning, dyeing the sky red. Then let's die together. Xue Jingyu let out a sinister laugh and roar. As blood filled the air, a thick smell of blood spread in all directions, condensing into a terrifying blood-red monster. The blood monster roared shapelessly and lunged at Tan Jeline. She raised her axe and slashed, but the blood stuck to the axe like acid, clinging tightly. In just a moment, the blood completely engulfed her. Xue Jingyu laughed louder, his aura growing stronger and stronger. Just then, a pitch-black light tore through the void, slashing down from the ancient past to the present. The blood monster was instantly annihilated. Tan Jeline tore through the void and stepped out from the blood engulfment. Black spirit force surrounded her, surging into the sky. Even her giant axe radiated an aura of destruction. How can this be? Xue Jingyu screamed in horror. That's because you don't understand what the Army Breaker Imperial Physique truly is, Tan Jeline said calmly. She swung her axe. Before Xue Jingyu could flee, he was completely obliterated. Seeing things turn for the worse, Xue Fengyun and the other man tried to flee the city. Tan Jeline didn't even look at them. She casually tossed her axe. The axe tore through space, and when it fell, it split the city's main road in two. A bottomless chasm opened in the ground. Xue Fengyun and the other man were both slain by the axe. Tan Jeline turned around and stood tall, the space around her constantly shattering and reforming. She looked at Su Zimo with blazing eyes and asked, Am I still too weak now? Do I have the right to fight you? She waved her hand, and the axe rose from the chasm, tore through space, and returned to her grip. Su Zimo finished his wine and slowly stood up from the ruins. To someone at the God Meridian stage like him, someone who hadn't even reached the Empyrean Meridian level yet didn't stir any fighting spirit in him. Even if she had the second-ranked battle body, it didn't matter. He wore a purple robe, his long hair drifting without wind, and Shadow Tyrant on his back trembled in its sheath. Su Zimo slowly raised his right hand and extended his index finger. As his finger pointed down, spirit force gathered around him. Above his head, that finger seemed to turn into a pillar holding up the heavens. Chapter 497. I can't even be bothered to draw my blade. As that single finger fell from the sky, the surrounding space began collapsing on a large scale. The pressure surged between his fingers, and a rumbling sound echoed. Endless gales and shockwaves gathered. When the finger dropped, Tangeline felt an overwhelming power descend from above. Her whole body froze in place. Her internal energy circulation slowed drastically. She struggled to raise her giant axe to defend, but with a loud boom, a powerful force came from the finger, and she was sent flying from the center of the storm. Like a lone boat in a vast sea, she had no power to resist. Bang! Her body crashed into the ground, creating a deep pit several meters wide. She lay still for a long time before slowly struggling to her feet. In that brief moment just now, she felt she had truly experienced the terror between life and death. Even now, her heart was pounding, and it felt like her blood had frozen. You! Tangeline looked up at Suzumo, her lips parting, but she couldn't say a word. You're too weak, so weak that I don't even have the interest to draw my blade, Suzumo said, shaking his head slightly. With strength like that, you want to talk about destiny? About battle? About sparring? Tangeline stayed silent for a long time. She had spent the past few years traveling the world. She had seen real geniuses and always believed she was no worse than any of them. You're just too strong, she finally replied after a pause. How did you get the second-ranked battle body? Suzumo asked. My master gave it to me. Tangeline hesitated for a moment and then answered. Who's your master? Suzumo asked with interest. I don't know his name. I only heard others call him the sage, Tangeline replied. If you see your master again, tell him I have something to ask him, Suzumo said calmly. Have him come find me at the true martial sacred ground. I'll spare your life this time. Think of it as delivering a message for me. Suzumo frowned slightly. The name Sage sounded very familiar. During the legendary era, the young man who rode a green ox was also called the Sage. In his conversation with the God Emperor, the one who was ordered to seal the primordial demon cave was also the Sage. And now the second-ranked battle body was also related to this Sage. Suzumo really did want to meet this person and get some answers. Whether friend or foe, if he stood in Suzumo's way, he'd be eliminated. One day, I'll be strong enough to fight you, Tangeline said seriously before leaving. The second battle body means nothing to me. Without it, what do you have left? Suzumo replied coldly. Tangeline fell silent. In the end, she put away her axe and dismissed her battle body form, walking slowly toward the city gates. The sky was just beginning to brighten in the east, a pale light spreading across the horizon. The world was still in quiet slumber. Tangeline exited the city and turned back to take one last deep look at it. Little Xie, do you think I can surpass him? The evil god list in her arms emitted a faint golden light and finally replied, If your Dao heart is strong enough, there's nothing in this world you can't do. But that man, I can't see through him. The death of the city lord would cause a huge uproar in Blood Slaughter City. The death of Xue Jingyu might also shake the Blood Nether sacred ground. But none of that had anything to do with Suzumo. Early the next morning, Suzumo used the teleportation formation in Blood Slaughter City to head back to the western region. After a rather dull space journey, on the 7th day, Suzumo returned to the western region. Chasing Sun City was located north of the true martial sacred ground, within the territory of the Divine Sun's sacred ground. It was one of the few large cities under their control. Legend says that an ancestor of the Divine Sun's sacred ground once chased the sun and reached this place, where he later gained insight and became immortal. The lineage built the city here to honor that ancestor's glory. Morning sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow over a luxurious courtyard inside the city. Shenyuan Shentian slowly opened his door. Facing the sunlight, his eyes were deep and clear. He had once been the Divine Sun's sacred ground's holy son, possessing one of the 100 great battle bodies, the Golden Emperor battle physique. He had even competed in the 6 Holy Lands gathering. Although he didn't take first place, he had made a strong impression. Back then, He was the sect's most promising candidate to seize the heaven's will of the age. But now, Shenyuan Shintian could only sigh at how unpredictable the world was. Half a year ago, the sect's ancestor emerged from seclusion. Not only had he broken through to the arcane immortal realm, but he had also elevated the sect's overall strength. He brought back a young man and focused on nurturing him, intending for him to replace Shenyuan as the new Holy Son. Shenyuan Shintian swore he would never forget that day. He challenged the newcomer and ended up being defeated and trampled in a humiliating fashion. That young man possessed the 17th-ranked Undying Battle physique. Now he had become the new lord of Chasing Sun City. Even though the city was still under the Divine Sun's Sacred Ground's control, Shenyuan Shintian had been stripped of his status as Holy Son. It was essentially exile from the sect. With no future ahead, Shenyuan Shintian felt only sorrow. Su Zimo exited the teleportation array. It was midday, and the streets were bustling. If he traveled south from Chasing Sun City for a few days, he would arrive in the territory of the true martial sacred ground. Su Zimo found a restaurant. At his cultivation level, eating wasn't necessary anymore. He just felt like indulging his appetite. He entered the restaurant, which was lively at this time of day. It wasn't overly crowded, but not quiet either. Su Zimo picked a window seat and sat down, observing the scenery outside. Just then, a young man in golden robes entered the restaurant, accompanied by an old man. "Young Master Shenyuan, please head upstairs, your private room is ready," the innkeeper said respectfully, rushing over. Shenyuan Shintian nodded calmly and started walking upstairs. As he reached the stairs, his gaze met Su Zimo's by the window, and he froze in place. "Young Master Shenyuan?" the innkeeper called softly nearby. "I'll sit downstairs today," Shenyuan Shintian said with a small shake of his head and walked toward Su Zimo. "We're kind of old acquaintances, right? Mind if I sit here?" Shenyuan Shintian asked. "Go ahead," Su Zimo nodded. Being back in the western region gave him a faint feeling of homesickness. "You look defeated. Is it that obvious?" Shenyuan Shintian chuckled. Chapter 498, The New Holy Son. Su Zimo nodded firmly. Shenyuan Shintian gave a bitter smile and said, "I can't compare to you, Brother Su. Now I'm like a setting sun, with a bleak future. I don't know what path to take next. If even someone with one of the 100 battle physiques feels unsatisfied, what about those fighters without one, still struggling to survive?" Su Zimo smiled. "Some things must be fought for. Contentment brings peace." "You're right, Brother Su. But letting go of some things isn't so easy for me," Shenyuan Shintian said with a faint laugh. "It's been a few years since the 6 Holy Lands gathering. There's been no news from you. These days, the Western region is filled with emerging talents. It's hard to keep track." "Talents? Name a few," Su Zimo replied with a smile. "Let's not talk about distant ones. Take our own Divine Sun's Sacred Ground's current Holy Son, Luo Changfeng. He broke through to the Empyrean Meridian realm 6 months ago. Combined with his Undying Battle physique, he's being called the strongest in the Western region. Then there's the demonic child from the Purgatory Sacred Ground, said to have inherited the legacy of an ancient demon, greatly increasing his strength and gaining quite a reputation. As for the immortal spirit sex Xianlinger, she's been confirmed as the reincarnation of the peacock ancestor. Her cultivation has skyrocketed in a short time, showing the brilliance of her former life. Also, the Myriad Beast sect, rumor has it they skipped the 6 Holy Lands gathering because of a bloodline issue among their disciples and an incident with the Pure Moon altar. But during that chaos, one disciple's bloodline actually reverted to an ancestral state, reaching perfect level, giving them both human cultivation speed and the beast race's combat strength. After hearing this, Su Zimo chuckled and shook his head. "All just worthless chickens and dogs," he said. "You hasn't shown your face in the Western region for years. Many people have already started to forget you," Shenyuan Shintian said. "You'd better be careful. A lot of people may want to challenge you." "Challenge me?" Su Zimo laughed. "Yes, you were the champion of the 6 Holy Lands gathering, already hailed as the strongest in the Western region. Beating you would earn that title. Also, you represent the true martial sacred ground. Defeating the current holy son of a sacred ground is a quick way to become famous. Shenyuan Shintian said with a light laugh. That's interesting, Su Zimo smiled. Here's some advice: if you truly feel lost about the future, travel more. The Western region is still too small. There are 5 continents and countless domains. Maybe your opportunity is waiting for you elsewhere. Shenyuan Shintian nodded seriously. He'd already been thinking the same. The two chatted throughout the meal, covering many topics. Though they weren't that close before, martial cultivation was all about sharing and learning from one another. Besides, Su Zimo had been away for years, and the Western region had changed drastically. Everyone was growing rapidly, preparing for the heaven's will of this great era. They talked from noon until dusk. Just then, a group of people walked into the restaurant. All of them wore golden robes, the standard uniform of the Divine Sun Sacred Ground. Su Zimo glanced at them casually, but his attention quickly shifted to their leader. It was a young man. His golden robe had a blazing sun design on the back. On his chest was the sex emblem, and the color of his robe was noticeably deeper than the others. Back during the 6 Holy Lands gathering, Su Zimo had seen Shenyuan Shintian wear similar clothes. It must be the unique robe of the Holy Son of the Divine Sun Sacred Ground. Your old friend is here, Su Zimo said to Shenyuan Shintian. Shenyuan Shintian glanced back. His expression immediately turned cold. The group had 4 people, 2 men, 2 women. Their leader, the current Holy Son Luo Changfeng, walked over to Shenyuan Shintian. I went to the city lord's estate. They said you were here, so I came, Luo Changfeng said calmly. What do you want? Shenyuan Shintian asked without looking up. Senior brother Shenyuan, senior brother Luo is our holy son. Please mind your tone, said one of the female disciples, clearly upset by Shenyuan Shuantian's coldness. Junior sister Qing Lu, I'm your senior brother. You should watch your own tone too, Shenyuan Shintian replied coldly. Let it go, Qing Lu. The other young woman smiled and shook her head. Senior brother Shenyuan has reason to feel upset. We're just here to discuss some sect matters. We mean no harm. Su Zimo looked at the young woman. She wore a light golden robe. Her long hair was tied back in several loops. Her face was delicate, and her eyes were clear and pure, like they contained no impurities. Please speak, junior sister Qingxue, Shenyuan Shintian said with a faint smile. This isn't really the place for this talk, Luo Qingxue said, glancing at Su Zimo as if hinting at something. It's fine. He's a friend of mine, Shenyuan Shintian replied calmly. It's not like the sect trusts me with anything important anyway. He wasn't wrong. As the former holy son, his position was awkward now. Because of Luo Changfeng's rise, the sect members all avoided him. He had no chance of regaining the holy son title, but he also couldn't resign himself to mediocrity. It was a frustrating situation. Let's talk. Luo Changfeng didn't argue. He pulled up a chair and sat down. Have you heard of the 4 southern demons? Shenyuan Shintian nodded slightly. The 4 southern demons were rogue cultivators from the eastern continent. More accurately, they were demonic cultivators. Their cultivation methods were cruel and violent, and many people had tried to eliminate them. But their strength and secrecy made them hard to deal with. Not long ago, the 4 southern demons entered our sect's territory and slaughtered an entire village, Luo Changfeng said. The sect elders came out of seclusion to hunt them down. 3 were killed, but 1 escaped. I was sent to pursue him. After tracking him for some time, I suspect he's hiding near Chasing Sun City. Which one escaped? Shenyuan Shintian asked. Each of the 4 demons had their own specialty. He needed to know which one to be prepared. It was the formation demon, Gong Sun Hong, Luo Changfeng replied. So I'm hoping you can help us catch Gong Sun Hong and restore peace to Chasing Sun City. If he's really hiding in the city, considering how big it is, it'll be hard to find him, Shenyuan Shintian said after thinking for a moment. Chapter 499 Paimon's Mission. He won't stay hidden for long. The evil art he practices is too unique. He must drink the blood of virgin boys and girls, Luo Changfeng said with certainty. What do you mean? Shenyuan Shentian frowned slightly. I want you to gather all the virgin boys and girls in Chasing Sun City and protect them. Also, seal the city. Don't let anyone leave, Luo Changfeng said. He'll reveal himself soon enough. That's impossible. Chasing Sun City is huge. You can't just seal it off like that. Shenyuan Shentan shook his head. I'm acting under orders from the sect. I have the authority to make decisions, Luo Changfeng said calmly. If anything goes wrong, I'll take responsibility. In that case, I won't involve myself, Shenyuan Shentian said directly. From now on, the city is yours to manage. Take the credit or the blame. Fine. Luo Changfeng nodded plainly. Luo Qingxue looked like she wanted to speak, but in the end, she could only sigh and stay silent. Then go ahead. Don't interrupt my drinking. Shenyuan Shentian turned back to Su Zimo with a smile. Brother Su, let's toast. Su Zimo smiled and raised his cup. Luo Changfeng said nothing more. He stood up and left, his expression unchanged. Outside the restaurant, Luo Qinglu spoke up, still angry. Senior brother Changfeng, you're the holy son. How could you let Shenyuan Shentian treat you like that? To make someone fall, first let them lose their mind? Luo Changfeng said calmly, shaking his head. Arguing or fighting is pointless. Patience is something every successful person must have. You either endure in silence or strike with deadly precision. Have you ever heard of the calm before the storm? What you're saying is too deep. I don't get it, Luo Qinglu replied, shaking her head. Luo Qingxue smiled and explained. Senior brother Changfeng just became holy son. He can't afford to shine too brightly yet. Once his position is secure, that's when the purge will begin. What should we do now? The only male disciple in the group asked. Go to the city lord's estate. Seal the city today, Luo Changfeng said after thinking for a moment. Start asking around and see if any children have gone missing. Then gather all the children together. We'll protect them with the help of the city guards. When Gong Sun Hong can't resist anymore, he'll make a move. Also, order a city-wide search. Won't this cause too much of a stir? The male disciple asked hesitantly. When you strike a snake, aim for the heart. If you don't kill him in one blow, he'll come back stronger, Luo Changfeng said seriously. We already killed the other 3 demons. The Divine Sun's sacred ground has formed a blood feud with him. If we don't catch him quickly, he'll kill even more people. I'll take care of it now, the male disciple nodded. Inside the restaurant, watching Luo Changfeng and the others leave, Shenyuan Shentian let out a cold snort. Brother Su, want to watch a good show? He asked Su Zimo. What do you mean? Su Zimo was slightly surprised. If you're not in a rush, stay in Chasing Sun City for a few days, Shenyuan Shentan said. Su Zimo looked at him with interest. He wasn't in a hurry. Besides visiting his parents, he just had a few things to take care of. I won't hide it from you, Brother Su. I actually heard about the 4 southern demons a while ago. Before Luo Changfeng and the others arrived, I already had people watching Gong Sun Hong, Shenyuan Shentan said with a smile. Now I've got a pretty good idea of his whereabouts. Su Zimo smiled. He hadn't expected that outcome. Although Shenyuan Shentian was no longer the holy son, he still had eyes and ears in the sect. After all, he'd only recently lost the position. His influence was still strong. Why didn't you say anything just now? Su Zimo asked. I'm not giving him the credit, Shenyuan Shentian replied. Why not stay a few days, Brother Su? I don't mind. Su Zimo nodded slightly. After finishing their meal, Shenyuan Shentian took Su Zimo to the city lord's estate. He cleaned up a small courtyard for Su Zimo to stay in. As night fell, the courtyard Su Zimo stayed in happened to be next to where Luo Changfeng and his group were staying. The yard wasn't large, but it was elegantly arranged. In the chilly autumn evening, yellow leaves fell gently from the trees in the courtyard. At that moment, the space in front of Su Zimo tore open, and Paimon's burly figure slowly walked out. "What is it?" Su Zimo asked. "My lord, I must leave now." Paimon knelt on one knee, paused briefly, then spoke. "Your mission, huh?" Su Zimo narrowed his eyes slightly. He hadn't expected this moment to finally arrive. Paimon nodded. "Now you should tell me. What exactly is your mission?" Su Zimo asked. "My lord should know about the spatial gate connecting the primordial demon cave to the primordial heartlands," Paimon said. Su Zimo nodded. "Isn't it sealed?" "Every generation's emperor seals it, so the demon cavern can't connect to primordial heartlands. But has my lord ever thought, the emperors are powerful, yes, but only within the primordial heartlands. Do you know what kind of beings exist in the primordial demon cave? Do you really think they can be sealed by emperors?" Paimon shook his head. "What are you saying?" Su Zimo's expression grew serious. "The so-called Grand Emperor seals aren't meant to keep the cavern from invading primordial heartlands. They're meant to stop the people of primordial heartlands from accessing the spatial gate," Paimon said, taking a deep breath. "The true seal on the gate is the demon locking chain. It's forged from a very rare crystal stone that heavily restricts our power, preventing the primordial demon cave from opening the gate." "Demon locking chain," Su Zimo murmured. "Yes. To break the chain, you need a key forged from Chaos Stone," Paimon explained. "Chaos Stone is unique in the world. There's only one. Every 1,000 years, the world resets to its origin. The sun, moon, stars, even primordial heartlands and the heavens align in a straight line. On that day, the demon locking chain will rotate, and the seal will temporarily weaken. That's the best chance to break it with the Chaos Stone. Now, the 1,000 years are nearly up. The time is almost here. Where is the Chaos Stone?" Su Zimo narrowed his eyes and asked. "The Demon Slayer clan," Paimon said slowly and clearly. Chapter 500 Attest. Su Zimo was slightly stunned. "The Demon Slayer clan. It's been a long time since I thought of that name. The Demon Slayer clan not only hunts down the heaven demons of every era, they also guard the Chaos Stone," Paimon said. "I must retrieve the Chaos Stone before the demon locking chain rotates. Only then can the spatial gate be opened." "You're going to the Demon Slayer clan?" Su Zimo murmured, feeling a little dazed. He whispered softly, "Lan Kuer." "Yes. Destroy the Demon Slayer clan, obtain the Chaos Stone, and welcome the arrival of the primordial demon cave." Paimon nodded. "How confident are you?" Su Zimo paused and asked. "I don't know. That clan has never been as simple as it seems," Paimon answered after some thought. "Go. You can kill anyone else. But if you encounter a woman named Lan Kuer, spare her," Su Zimo said, forming her image in the air with spirit force. "My lord, I hope you grow stronger soon," Paimon said seriously. "I miss those war-torn days when you led us to defy fate, to fight the heavens, and stand against the world. Unfortunately, I may never see that day again." "You make it sound like a farewell for life." Su Zimo shook his head slightly. "My lord, I'm off," Paimon said solemnly. "Go. If you're not back within 3 months, I'll come to the Demon Slayer clan myself to find you," Su Zimo replied. Paimon knelt, kowtowed 3 times heavily, and finally his figure slowly disappeared into the void. Watching Paimon vanish, Su Zimo exhaled deeply. The moonlight outside the window was bright, and the autumn wind blew cold. In the silent darkness, cool air filled the room. Su Zimo sat on the bed and began advancing his God Meridian cultivation. The God Meridian realm had 9 layers. He was currently only at the first layer. The primordial chaos bead of the true fate world slowly emerged, and Su Zimo opened his 8th meridian gate. God fire poured out, flooding his god soul. The remaining power within the primordial chaos bead gradually flowed into Su Zimo's body. The god fire within his meridian gates burned even more fiercely. His spirit force circulated through several major and countless minor meridians. Then a loud bang was heard as the spirit force surged within him. His realm began to rise from God Meridian Stage 1, God Meridian Stage 2, God Meridian Stage 3, all the way to God Meridian Stage 9. Only after reaching Stage 9 did the power stored in the primordial chaos bead from his previous life finally get fully absorbed. Inside Su Zimo's body, the previously roaring long river had become a turbulent sea. Spirit force surged like dragons through the 8 meridian gates. The smaller meridians were fully linked, refining Su Zimo's body. He felt his control over spirit force and the power of creation had increased dramatically. It felt like his inner energy was now a bottomless sea. He had now reached the limit of what could be achieved through mortal cultivation. The next step would be stepping into the path of Tao. But Su Zimo wasn't in a hurry. He'd wait until the heaven's will was formed. The 9th meridian gate marked the completion of 3 full circulations. Every 3 meridian gates formed 1 full cycle, and each cycle was exponentially more difficult. Now that he'd just reached the peak of the God Meridian realm, Su Zimo focused on calming his energy and familiarizing himself with the new power. This cultivation lasted an entire night. After dawn, a maid invited Su Zimo to the main hall for breakfast. After a brief tidy-up, he followed her and saw that not only was Shenyuan Shintian there, but also Luo Changfeng and his 3 companions. Su Zimo had guessed why Shenyuan Shintian asked him to stay. Although Gong Sun Hong was a rogue cultivator, he was not to be underestimated. Shenyuan Shintian likely worried about being unable to handle him alone, so he wanted Su Zimo nearby for backup. Everyone gathered around a round table for breakfast. Su Zimo didn't stand on ceremony and sat down directly. "Brother Su, did you sleep well last night?" Shenyuan Shintian asked with a smile. "Pretty well," Su Zimo nodded. Luo Qingxue, sitting nearby, paused slightly with her chopsticks, then looked at Su Zimo and asked with a smile, "May I ask where young Master Su is from?" "Me? From the True Martial Sacred Ground." Su Zimo smiled. "True Martial Sacred Ground, surname Su." Luo Changfeng made a small sound and suddenly seemed to realize something. "You're the current holy son of the True Martial Sacred Ground?" Su Zimo smiled and nodded. The others looked a little surprised. They had assumed Su Zimo was just a rogue cultivator. He'd been too low profile and hadn't shown anything off. "I wonder who's stronger, you or my brother Changfeng?" Luo Qinglu asked quietly. "You're with the Undying Race, right?" Su Zimo asked as he looked at the group. "Yes. What does brother Su think of us?" Luo Changfeng asked directly. In the Desolate Era, the 3 great ancient races ruled as overlords, with the Undying Race once reigning supreme. Unfortunately, the Desolate Era was eventually overthrown. The Titans were nearly wiped out in their battle against the Dark Primordial Race. The Beast Race was overthrown by the True Martial Sacred Ground, and the Undying Race simply vanished. Su Zimo had seen members of the Undying Race in Sword Immortal Jiangyun's particle world. They were occupying particle worlds in the primordial heartlands. In the beginning, all races, humans included, had resented the 3 ancient races. But over time, people gradually began to accept them again. That's why Luo Changfeng asked, "I don't have any particular opinion. Just don't get in my way," Su Zimo said plainly. "If competing for the heavens will count as getting in your way, then we'll meet sooner or later," Luo Changfeng replied. "Then I'll have to kill you," Su Zimo said calmly. "Who kills who is still unclear," Luo Qinglu muttered. "Girl, let me be honest, even your brother isn't much in my eyes. Your whole divine son's sacred ground couldn't compare," Su Zimo said, shaking his head. "I've destroyed imperial lineages before. Anyone can talk big," Luo Qinglu snorted. "We've got the Undying Race behind us. Brother Su, let's go out for a walk," Shenyuan Shintian interrupted, looking at Su Zimo. "Sure," Su Zimo nodded. The meal ended in awkward silence, with Shenyuan Shintian mostly talking to Su Zimo. After breakfast, the 2 of them left. They had only walked a few steps when Luo Changfeng suddenly called out, "Brother Su, is this jade pendant yours?" Just as Su Zimo turned his head, a blood-red jade pendant flew at him like a sharp arrow.